Hey everyone, hope you're all doing great. Welcome back to the Anime Fictions 2.0. Today, we're diving into another exciting What If Naruto the Quirky villain? If you're enjoying these alternate timelines, make sure to hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends, and check out the other videos on the channel. And of course, drop your thoughts in the comments. I always love hearing your ideas. Alright, enough talk, let's get into the story. Ha! So many people, over just one little thing like this. Stealing it was the right choice. Wonder how many people will freak when I escape with it. A young male spoke, most of him disguised, as he looked at a small, rounded, metal device that he had no idea what it was. He wore an orange hoodie with the hood pulled up to cover his hair, and over his hoodie he had a red cloak with black flames near the bottom of it. Covering his mouth and cheeks, he wore a medical mask, and he had on black pants to go with his orange hoodie. He was on the shorter side, being 166 centimeters in height, not overly tall for a guy, but he was muscular to match with it. Blonde hair peeked out from under his hood, and he had orange markings around his yellow eyes with bar-shaped pupils. He was on the top of a building, surrounded by 3 heroes. They had been called in by the police to arrest him, after he had stolen the weird little object that he had in his hands. "Give it up, we have you cornered." A massive man, 205 centimeters tall, with massive muscles and a large, square jaw. He had thick metal bands around his wrists, and his abs were on display since his hero costume was skin-tight and didn't cover everything. Spiked back white hair, and his fists slamming together to show that he was ready for a fight. "Death Arms, right?" the teenager asked with a grin under his mask. "Cool, you're a pretty big name but not as big as All Might." He had 2 pretty big name heroes after him, and a hero who was in the top 10. "I was more than enough to handle a simple thief. Don't see why you 2 needed to be called in. I didn't need any help in this." A tan-skinned, tiny and muscular woman spoke with a confident grin. She was even shorter than the thief, 159 centimeters in height, and tasting her tan skin was long white hair and red eyes, as well as her long white bunny ears instead of human ones. She had an attractive body, barely hidden by a white leotard with a yellow moon on it, white gloves, and purple thigh-high stockings. He broke into a highly secured vault, and stole a very expensive item they called in those best suited for this situation. A scruffy man, also a tall 183 centimeters, with long black hair and a scruffy face, as well as yellow goggles on. He wore all black, except for his gray scarf that seemed overly large. "Mirko and Eraserhead, you're super hot, and you're scruffy." The teen pointed to the 2 of them in turn. "He might be in a little bit of trouble." "PPFFFFT Scruffy, you're a scum for being a villain, but I like the way you speak." Mirko spoke as she pointed back at the villain. She tensed her legs and rushed off at him faster than a speeding rabbit. He jumped up a clear 25 feet into the air and dodged her, landing on the opposite side of the rooftop on his hands. She didn't hesitate to crack the rooftop when she changed directions and chased after him. Without looking at Mirko, he ducked underneath her kick, and turned his head to look at her face from between her cleavage, with her looking down at him. Death Arms threw a punch at the villain, and it was dodged as well, slamming into the rooftop and getting his fist stuck in it. Mirko put her feet on his chest, and kicked off of him to chase after the villain. "He's got some kind of quirk that gives him excellent spatial awareness." Eraserhead's eyes glowed red, and his hair stood up, as he activated his own quirk and stopped the quirk of the villain they were facing. He threw his scarf out, and slingshot himself towards the villain, who threw himself off the top of the building to escape his line of sight. Mirko stopped at the edge of the building, looking down. "You guys are going to slow me down, I've got this." Mirko jumped off the building after him, and she saw blinked when he touched the side of the building with his hand and stuck to it. She kept falling though, passing him, and she grinned when she realized he had jumped, knowing that she would jump after him. He jumped onto the side of another building, so she kicked the side of the building and followed after him. In mid-air, she threw a kick at him as she passed him by faster than him, but he ducked in the air and flipped as he reached the next building. He jumped through the air again, and she chased after him in their mid-air fight the second she could get her foot onto the side of another building. In minutes, they had already traveled far away from their starting building, Eraserhead and Death Arms long since left behind in the chase. "She's practically flying, this is so much fun," the thief thought as he landed on the side of the building, and he felt her coming behind him. Instead of jumping, he did a backflip, and allowed her to kick the side of the building, her body breaking right through the glass, while he landed on the same building upside down, sticking to it, having just fallen a few feet. He waited for her. "You're not getting away from me. Where the hell did he go?" Mirko shouted as she ran to the edge of the broken glass and looked out into the distance. He had to have jumped to try and escape from her. That was what he had been doing for minutes now. The thief pushed off the building with his hands, front flipping so that he stood right in front of her. Pushing his medical mask up just enough so that his lips were visible, he gave her a swift kiss on the lips, before he pulled back when she out of instinct kicked where he had been. Pulling his mask back down, she glared at him for the kiss. "Consider that a thanks for the fun chase." "You slipped me tongue, you bastard, you've got some balls, I'll give you that." Mirko saw the thief jump again, and she chased after him. A fiery passion to kick him in her eyes, she went full speed, breaking part of the building she jumped out of. She looked him eye to eye as he flipped through the air, her body sailing underneath him as he landed on top of the roof of a shorter building, and she went clean over it. As soon as she landed, she jumped after him. Oddly enough, he was standing completely still on the building, waiting for her to join him. He was looking at his wrist, which had a watch on it. She blinked in surprise. No doubt he was checking to see how long he had escaped from her. That time was over now, because she was going to end this. 5-4. She landed. 3-2. "So, you decided to give up," Mirko started to say, before she suddenly felt extremely weak, and dropped to her hands and knees. All of her strength having left her body, and she saw him grinning down at her, his mouth visible again. 1. "As hot as you are, that kiss was for more than just a thanks for the fun. I didn't just slip you tongue, I slipped you poison. Don't worry, it's not lethal dose or anything, but once it kicks in, it really packs a kick," the thief stated to her, as he leaned down to her level once her arms started to shake from the effort of holding herself up. She barely had the energy left to even glare at him. He pulled out a knife. Shit, Mirko thought as he brought it closer to her. He cut open a hole in her leotard, right between her breasts, exposing cleavage. Pulling the stolen device out of his hoodie pocket, he dropped the device between her breasts. She fell onto her side, her arms not even able to holding her up anymore. "Oh, I don't even want this thing. I just knew stealing this would be an awesome way to start this thing out. I'm not interested in stuff like this," the thief said as he pulled out a marker, and he drew a spiral on her breast, right above her heart. Grabbing onto her wrist, he started to strip her gloves off of her hands, taking both of her gloves. "And now to collect my first trophy." "Thanks, Bun. You can say you were able to steal that back from me. I don't mind. I've got what I wanted." He put her gloves in his pocket, and walked backwards towards the edge of the building. "You bastard. My villain name is Kurama, remember that." With that, he was gone, taking a single step off the side of the building and dropping down into the alley below. Cursing her luck, but unable to follow him, she was forced to stare down at her ungloved hands. "With Kurama?" "Phew, that one was closer. If she had actually hit me, I would have been screwed." Kurama spoke as he got out his phone and started to call somebody. Pulling the mask off his face, and taking his cloak off, folding it up and pulling it into his hoodie front pocket. His whisker-marked cheeks were revealed, and as he pulled down his hoodie his golden spiky hair was fully revealed. The person he called answered the phone. "Sup Naruto, what are you calling about?" "Are you watching the news?" Naruto asked with a wide grin across his face. He wondered if he had made news yet. He really wanted to see if his first crime had made national TV, or just local television. All Might stopped a weird villain from stealing some kid's body, but otherwise it was a pretty slow news day. Naruto clicked his teeth in annoyance, before he hung up his phone. It seemed like he needed to have a repeat performance. First chapter story start. "I like tall women with big tits, but this is a bit much." Naruto grinned under his mask, a sword strapped to his back, the goal of his weekly theft, one would say. He had spent the last 3 months doing a different theft every week, making sure to commit his crime where a different hero was close enough to appear. Sometimes he would come across some of them that nearly captured him, but other times he would actually defeat the hero and take something from them, leaving behind what he had stolen so that he could keep the trophy he wanted. He didn't want anything he stole. What he wanted was trophies from heroes, Because it was one thing to steal, but to steal something from a hero and leave behind the object they chased him for? Now that was something else, he would be noticed for that for sure. Week 1, Mirko's gloves. Week 2, Bubble Girl's face mask. Week 3, Fourth Kind's rings. Week 4, Gunhead's vest. Week 5, Mirko's thigh-high socks. Week 6, Ms. Joke's bandana. Week 7, Snipe's cloak. Week 8, Ingenium's helmet. Week 9, Sir Night Eye's glasses. Week 10, Mirko's neck warmer. Week 11, Mirko's hip guards. Week 12. I don't really know who this one is. Naruto realized that week 12 into his trophy collection, he didn't really know who the giant woman chasing him was. He also realized that he had been viciously chased down by Mirko more than the other heroes. He would have taken her gloves multiple times, but she just kept wearing the same type of gloves each time, since heroes all had multiple copies of their same suits. He ended up taking something different from her each time, and all that was left was her leotard. A giant hand slapped the ground, and he rolled out of the way of it just in time, rolling onto his back, with his hands behind his head. Massive, 2,062 centimeters tall, with super thick and shiny blonde hair with purple eyes but with white pupils. A figure many women would kill for, but a skin-tight bodysuit that was about the same color as her skin over most of it, but purple with orange. He loved that, outlines around the orange. She had on a purple eye mask with horns connected to it, not much he could take from her. She was careful to not destroy the concrete completely, but she still ended up doing damages to it. You're the annoying kid who has been in the news the last few months. MT lady. Just realized who you were. Wow, your hand is moving down towards me really. Gotcha. MT lady slapped her hand down against the ground where he was, silencing him. She used only enough force to gently push him into the ground, not even enough to crack the concrete. She grinned and waved her other hand to the news media when she saw all of her fans were taking pictures of her. Guess he wasn't ready to make my ass acquaintance. MT lady used one of her signature phrases and lifted her other hand up off of the ground, giving the photographers a wiggle of her hips. The villain wasn't below her hand. Fast, gotta let a guy finish what he was saying there, honey. Naruto said from her wrist that she had lifted up. He had dodged her slap, and had stuck himself to her wrist, winking at her as he hopped off of her wrist when she slapped it. Landing on her shoulder, he jumped off instantly when her other hand went to slap it. Whoa now, I don't hit women, I think you should extend the same rule to me, right? Guess not then. Naruto landed on the side of her hip, and jumped off onto her knee when she grit her teeth and punched her hip. He was being really annoying, so she jerked her knee and tried to throw him off, but he stayed latched onto her. Get off of me! MT lady danced in one spot from the effort of attempting to throw him off. She reached down to grab onto him, but he crawled around her legs so that he was on the back of her thigh. Her hands darted after him. Hey! MT lady shouted and gave herself a harsh spank when he crawled onto her ass, and he jumped onto her bicep, before he jumped up so that he landed smack dab in the middle of her face. He landed on her face before his ass was done jiggling. Who is just the cutest pro hero? Naruto reached down and pat her nose a few times. You are. Naruto continued to baby talk her. She was a rookie hero, so that was going to anger her for sure. Feeling something jet at him from behind, he stopped sticking to her. MT lady punched herself in the face with all of her power, knocking herself off of her own 2 feet. Her body and costume started to shrink down in size as she was sent flying, knocked out cold by her own immense strength. Her eyes were already rolled back up into her head, and by the time she hit the ground, she was already mostly down to her real size. Once she was on the ground, she continued to shrink until she was back to a normal 162 centimeters. She groaned, quickly started to regain consciousness, hitting the ground, waking her back up. That was humiliating. MT lady started to get back up, and when she sat back up, Naruto was there. He stuck his fingers right into her mouth, surprising her, but she felt her pulse slow down as the poison took effect quickly. Dropping back down onto her back, Naruto looked at her. Just gonna take this. Naruto grabbed her mask and removed it from her head. Grabbing onto her, he stood up before the press got to their location. What are you doing? It was hard to breath for MT lady, but Naruto jumped with her in his arms, and dropped her off at the top of the nearest building, away from the press. Naruto took his stolen sword, a historical one he took from a museum, and he looked down off the top of the building and saw the press was quickly gathering. Naruto took a deep breath, before he raised the sheathed sword up over his head. Kurama has escaped from the hero once again. I've taken my trophy, so I leave this item behind for the heroes to return to the museum. Naruto called out as he tossed the sword behind him, right on Empty Lady, since the press couldn't see her right now. Naruto turned around and looked down at the unmasked woman. Don't worry, Empty Lady. I'm only gave you enough poison to down you for 5 minutes, or so, just enough time for me to make my escape. Naruto walked backwards before he did a back flip off the other side of the building. Week 12, Empty Lady's Mask. Getting out of his costume, Naruto packed it all away in the front pocket of his hoodie, and hooded himself as he made his way out of the back of the alley, blending in with the crowd by the time his eyes had turned from toad eyes to blue ones. He couldn't hide the giddy grin from his lips though. He was just so happy that he could add another trophy to his collection. His fame as a villain was growing. Mirko was really helping him become famous by going after him with such a fury. He wondered what hero he would take on next week. Did you see that? Kurama escaped again for a villain who keeps getting away with his crimes. It's weird that he keeps returning everything he steals. Naruto grinned when he heard two men on their way to work speak about what he had just done. His fame as Kurama was on the rise, and he was just as famous as he was infamous, because he never actually kept anything he stole from the places he robbed. People were left feeling conflicted about him. He took clothes from heroes, but he never took the devices they used to assist in their quirks, and he never caused permanent damage to them. He took clothes that they easily replaced, and it left a lot of people wondering about what his motives were. Wonder what he took from Empty Lady. She just wears that bodysuit. You think she's, naked? Nah, I would do that if I wasn't sure she would have a way to get back home without being seen. Naruto wouldn't do that to somebody. His goal wasn't to ruin heroes' lives. He wasn't going to do that, give them a little humiliation maybe, but to do something like ruining their reputation was just not fun. He liked the attention, and he liked being chased by heroes. I'm more interested in why he keeps giving the stuff he takes back. Who wants some ancient stuff, or some weird gadgets I don't know how to use? Nah, I just want my little trophies. I'm gonna hang this one up right next to Mirko's hip guards. Naruto thought, grinning even wider as he signaled to a cab. He was going to get a ride back to his apartment, since he was a pretty far distance away from where he lived. He had to travel outside of his hometown to make this one happen. Naruto looked outside of the cab. Glancing around, he saw Kamui Woods rushing onto the scene that he had left behind him. Naruto wondered when Mirko was going to rush to the scene, only to not find him there. She was pretty serious about catching him. Cold. Toads hibernated, and the cold was a nightmare to those with quirks that made them like creatures who had to deal with this issue. The cold months had descended on Japan, and Naruto had pretty much been forced to take a small break from his criminal behavior, much to the surprise of the news that reported on his strange disappearance. It would seem that if he wanted to stay in the news, he would have to commit another crime, at least 1 or 3 more if he wanted to make sure not to be forgotten, or at least not to have his face vanish from the news completely. Do you hear me out there, Kurama? Just because you're laying low, doesn't mean I haven't forgotten about you. Nah. Naruto huddled up in his blankets, realizing with a grin that because Mirko was so determined to catch him herself, that she wasn't going to let him be forgotten. Every time she was on the news, she would send a message to him about how she was going to catch him. I'm so tired. Naruto laid on his side, and rolled around his bed so that he was wrapped with even more blankets. Maybe he would just sleep until spring. Oni-chan/Ni-chan, we're hungry. There goes that plan. Naruto felt small hands pushing against his blanket fortress against the cold. Naruto unwrapped himself, and he looked down and saw 2 very different-looking children were staring up at him. A little boy who had the appearance of a polar bear, his quirk making him look like a humanoid polar bear. The little girl showed no visible signs of having a quirk, but she was only 3 years old, so she still had time. Yukuin, settle down, Burrow. Okay, stop, I said stop, you little. Naruto jerked awake more clearly when they didn't stop pushing their hands against his face. More children, between ages 3 and 8, started to come into the room, close to 11 of them in total. Naruto could practically see on their faces just how hungry they were, so standing up, Naruto decided to get to it and make them something to eat. Thanks, Ni-chan. He wasn't their brother, and he wasn't related to any of them by blood, marriage, or anything that would make him any of their siblings. They just called him that, because he was the oldest, and he was the one that did everything for that. Naruto grabbed the smallest one of them, younger than 3, who was just a small baby being held by one of the other ones. Naruto let out a yawn as a baby played with his face, pushing his tiny hands up against his cheeks. Just so you guys know, I'm just making PB&J for all of you, except you get milk. Naruto jiggled the baby in his arms, and he was greeted with some cheers. Peanut butter was a luxury, quite expensive in Japan, so the fact he was making it at all showed that he was giving them a little gift for their taste buds. Truthfully though, he was just so tired that he didn't have the energy to make anything else without heating himself up some. Feeding them, that was his job kind of. The Yuzu Orphanage. The orphanage that had been started up by his mother, to help find new families for children with no parents. Well, at least that was what he had heard, since he had never met his mother or father personally. Ironically enough, his parents had died shortly after he was born, and had left him not just a part of the family business but as a resident of the orphanage as well. While all of the other children were adopted, Naruto never had been, because this was his home in a way. Didn't matter though. He had his parents' dreams on his shoulders. All of the responsibilities they had were his now, and the future of these orphans were on his shoulders. When the caretakers went home for the day, it was up to Naruto to take care of the children after hours, since none of the caretakers needed to stay after hours now that he was old enough to take care of the young children. Yeah, Kurama isn't in the news today either. When is he going to do his cool tricks and flips and stuff? Naruto looked at the TV in the playroom as he walked to the kitchen, and saw some kids huddled in front of it. A lot of the children loved watching the news when it was about heroes and villains, while the older kids, 6 to 9 years old, were able to watch it. When regular news stuff played, they turned it back to cartoons. Dinner is coming up soon, so turn that off and get plates set up. Anyway, I'm sure Kurama is going to show up in the news any day now. Naruto rubbed the top of the oldest boy's head with a grin on his face. Next day music, RWBY soundtrack, RWBY vs FNKI. Come on now, don't make this too easy for me now. Naruto jumped backwards, flipping over a large pink dragon claw that made to grab him. Naruto landed on top of a moving truck, watching as a large pink dragon with spiky blonde hair flew after him, a dragon wearing Chinese-styled combat clothing for a female. You know, you'll be like the third person in the top 10 to give me a victory trophy. Naruto ducked underneath a claw and laid down on his side with an unseen grin. Your reign of villainy ends today. Sexy, dirty talk me some more. Reign of villainy just makes me sound like a king. Naruto teased as he rolled off the side of the truck and onto the street, rolling across the ground as the number 9 hero Ryukyu flew over him, his arms behind his head as he stopped rolling. Ryukyu ended up losing control of her ability to fly as she was forced to stop abruptly, because flying was one thing she could do, but slowing down and stopping at the drop of a dime wasn't easy for something the size of a dragon. Before she hit the ground or the cars in the busy street, she transformed back into a human form. She landed on her feet, facing Naruto's direction as he managed to lay down in the street right between the passing traffic. Do you take anything seriously, or is this all just a game to you? Ryukyu asked as she started to run towards him as he sat up. You know what they say, when it comes to heroes and villains it takes one of each to play the game. Naruto flipped and landed on the side of a passing truck, because while she ran at him, he rode the truck and passed by her. Sup, don't mind me, just hitching a ride. Naruto winked at the driver of the truck, who had his window rolled down to enjoy the brisk air, something Naruto didn't really agree with. Naruto looked and saw Ryukyu had already transformed, and was chasing after him again. Looking ahead, Naruto saw his target. You won't be thinking this is a game when you're in jail. Ryukyu quickly gained ground on Naruto as he made his way to the top of the truck. Naruto leaned near the edge of the truck though and glanced to the side. Her hand was feet away from grabbing Naruto, when he raised his hands up and allowed himself to fall over the edge of the truck. Right when it passed by a bridge, meaning Naruto fell off the side of the bridge as well, towards the icy cold water down below. When he vanished from sight, Ryukyu flapped her wings and slowed down, before she changed directions and flew off the side of the bridge. She transformed into her human form and landed on the dead grass next to the water. Turning around sharply, she didn't see any hint of the villain she was chasing. She felt a hand on her shoulder though. Her eyes widened and she looked up, seeing her target drop down from the bottom of the bridge above them. Before she could transform, She was already reaching up to her head to activate her quirk. He shoved a handful of fingers into her mouth. She felt all of her strength quickly leave her body, and she dropped down on her face. What is your quirk? Ryukyu couldn't help but find it hard to connect the dots between the traits of his quirk. Naruto just reached into his pocket and pulled out the item he stole, something personal of Ryukyu's, an antique watch from so many years ago that it was worth a fortune. Naruto put it next to her head, before he grabbed her headband from her hair and pulled it off. Naruto looked at her shivering in the cold, before he also took a blanket he had in his backpack, and he draped it over her. The poison will wear off soon enough. This will keep you warm until you can go home. I understand your pain. Naruto ignored her question and saluted her. Standing up, and looking towards the news who had arrived at the side of the bridge, Naruto gave a large bow to his audience. Another day, another trophy, and my dear Ryukyu here will always remember this as a day she won't be able to forget. Naruto jumped into the water next to him, and vanished underneath the currents. Later. Kurama is so cool. Naruto sat on the couch behind the children watching the video of what he had done today, absolutely huddled up in blankets, and completely shivering. Jumping into the icy water had been a huge mistake, and it had nearly cost him big, even though it was a cool escape. Doing it had nearly put him to sleep on the spot, but thankfully he had been a little prepared and was wearing warming pads under his clothes. They saved his life and allowed him to get to a dry spot out of the view of the cameras. For hours though now, he had been unable to do much of anything. The cold was still getting to him that badly. Naruto grinned down at the children, though they couldn't see him do it since their eyes were glued to the TV. Now, he was going to take a few weeks to recover from this. Oh, Kurama and Mirko are at it again. The citizens of the city of Tokyo were greeted once more to the sight of Mirko giving a heated chase after the rising star of villains Kurama. A few teenagers had taken to start wearing orange hoodies because of how cool the new villain was, and some clothing items were becoming really popular because of it. You can catch him, Mirko. She's got nothing on you, Kurama. Show her that you are just way too slippery. Naruto grinned as he backflipped over a crowd of people, and Mirko landed in front of him. She spun in the air and kicked at him, spinning around and throwing a punch at him the second he kick missed. Naruto had updated his villain costume. Instead of wearing a medical mask like usual, he had actually bought a black mask to cover the lower half of his face and neck. Since it was the dead middle of the winter, this was not only to make him look cooler, but to also keep him warmer through the cold months. Mirko was really on fire with her combos. She threw her power around, and her speed was nothing to scoff at either. Naruto's agility though wasn't something that was easy to handle, even for the hero who dealt with him more than any other hero. His agility wasn't a threat, were it not for the fact that he was so unpredictable, not having the usual thought process of a villain. Mirko was grinning. You're heading down to jail with me, punk. Mirko put her hands on the ground, and did the splits, spinning around and throwing a dozen fast kicks his direction. Naruto leaned backwards, and she fired off a downward kick, so he flipped as she shattered concrete. She was wearing replacements for all of the costume parts that he had stolen, and he had stolen multiple copies of things from her, but never the leotard. He had never escaped her in a place where he could steal that without leaving her naked in public. Naruto's grin was more easily visible through his current mask. Ah, Bunbun, I really do love it when you're feisty. Naruto leaned forward as she corrected her posture, and tapped his finger against the tip of her nose. With her teeth, she made to bite him, but he jerked his hand back. Now that was just rude. Here I am. Naruto sidestepped a punch aimed at his face, and spun around and swung her leg after. Ducking her kick, he reached up and grabbed her leg, her power throwing him into the air. Just loving that cute little button nose you have, and you attack me. Naruto grabbed onto the traffic signal, spun around, and balanced on top of it. Mirko blushed in anger, covering her nose with her hand even as she jumped towards Naruto again, landing on the traffic signal with him. She was agile too, and she was able to continue fighting even on the cramped space. Hey punk, what the hell are you even doing as a villain? If you're so skilled, why the hell aren't you applying for a hero's school? Instead of causing all this trouble. Mirko uncovered her nose and started to throw some punches. Her arms weren't even close to as strong as her legs, but she had enough strength in her muscle to hurt a grown man with ease. Naruto dodged by slipping so that he was standing upside down, defying gravity as he looked upwards at Mirko. She jumped off the side and used her hands to hang onto the traffic signal, before she started to throw kicks at him as she hung. He dodged as if he were standing the right way up. I think the real question is, why are you still single, men too afraid of being choked out by your thighs? Let me tell you, that isn't the worst way to go. Naruto avoided the question completely as he teased her some more. Mirko watched him drop and land in the back of a moving truck, so she swung around and soared through the air, landing in the bed of the truck after him. No, seriously, if you were a serious villain, I'm pretty sure a ton of heroes would be dead. You would be a real threat to heroes if you weren't so weird for a villain. Mirko couldn't understand why anyone would waste such skill on something like collecting hero trophies like this. She would say theft, but he never actually completed his thefts. He returned the item he stole every time, because they were never his objective. The other heroes just think you're some punk, or an annoying kid, but on your debut as a villain, you took me down. You've never thrown a single punch at a single hero, or threatened even a single civilian. Mirko had never seen this villain attack even a single person, even when they were attacking him. He only ever evaded them until he was able to take them down in a rather nonviolent way. Even now, he jumped off the truck when she aimed a high kick at his chin. He rolled across the street and onto the sidewalk, and she was quick to follow him, and tried to slam her foot into his chest. What? His nonviolence aside, she still wanted to hurt him for escaping her so many times. I've never really been in a fight, and it doesn't sound like fun to hurt people. Naruto did answer that, at least as rolled from his back to his feet. It was getting a lot harder to escape Mirko. She was getting used to the way he evaded her. Usually, he would have already given her a kiss and knocked her out. Mirko, since she was the first person that he escaped from, was something of a special hero. He liked to finish her off the same way each time, and almost chased kiss to the lips. She was grinning when she realized the same thing as him. Having a hard time. Of course I'm going to be hard. You keep showing off those thighs and ass all the time. Naruto made a joke of her statement. He didn't want to show any of the other abilities of his quirk relating to his toad nature. The more he revealed about his quirk, the easier it would be for them to try and find him because of the quirk registry. It's Kurama and Mirko I in person. Gonna be late for work. Yeah, a hero and villain are going at it. It was hard for people not to notice them as Naruto made a show of weaving his way through her attacks. Naruto felt the heat pads under his clothes start to lose the heat they were giving him, and he had to grin. Yeah. Shit. Mirko whispered when she saw a scream, and saw a flipped car was rolling across the street towards a group of people crossing the road. She abandoned her prey, and rushed towards the truck. The truck was spinning and flipping out of control, showing that somebody had decided to ignore the speed limit under the icy road conditions. She braced herself, and stared down the truck as it slammed into her. She dug her feet into the street, and was pushed back, slowing down the truck with her body before it could hit the crowd of people that were behind her. The crowd behind her was safe. The driver wasn't though. He had been sent flying out of the front window when she had used her body as a shield. Her feet dug firmly into the street, and her body stuck in the metal truck and slightly injured. She would be unable to stop the man from flying into incoming traffic. The driver wasn't hit by a car though. Naruto, without even thinking about it, jumped towards the man and grabbed him by the back of his shirt, throwing him out of the way of the truck. He was not going to be injured. Naruto had thrown him a clear 20 feet away, so he was going to be hurt, but he wasn't as hurt as Naruto was going to be. Hit by the truck that nearly killed the man, Naruto knocked into the air behind the truck, before he was run over by a second car that rolled over him. Cars came skidding to a halt moments later. Shit, Mirko whispered when she saw her target was unmoving on the ground, her eyes starting to widen as traffic came to a screeching halt. She dug herself out of the street, her forearms bruised and possibly broken from taking the brunt of the force of the truck. She ran towards the villain's body and saw him laying face down on the other. Turning him over, she saw his eyes were closed. Naruto's eyes shot open and he leaned up, lowering his mask when his face was too close for her to see it clearly, and he planted a kiss on her lips. Pulling his mask up before she could see it, the poison took effect and she collapsed on the ground next to him. Naruto looked down at Mirko now that she could barely move, and he tapped the tip of her nose. Just kidding, and I'll be taking this and giving this back to you. Naruto stood up and tossed her a new phone that he stole, after he took her fuzzy neck warmer again. Standing up and winking down at her, Naruto jumped up to the top of the nearest building as more heroes started to arrive. You punk! I'll get you! Several minutes later. Oh my god, this hurts so much, fuck shit, damn. This was the closest chase yet, but damn, wasn't it fun. Naruto grinned as he looked at the bruises that were forming on his chest and back, where he had gotten hit by a truck and run over by a car. His body had moved on its own, and this was the price he had to pay for his act of heroism. Maybe next time I'll go see how much luck goes with Eraserhead or Midnight. I haven't taken anything from them, Naruto groaned in pain. Forcing himself to stand up, Naruto started to walk normally, out of costume, in the direction of the orphanage. Right now, the caretakers were on duty, so they were watching the kids, but it was approaching 6, and the kids needed somebody to help them with their homework, and make them a snack before they went to bed. He was going to be hurting tomorrow. I've got ice. Naruto, coming home from the store, raised his hands up with a grin on his face. Had his grin completely vanished from his face when he saw a pro hero was sitting amongst the children in the middle of the room. Naruto almost dropped his bags when he saw it was a famous pro hero at his home, and he was a villain. Also, a very seductive hero. Oh great, these kids were just telling me about how great of a big brother you are, I can see why. The taller-than-him woman, even without heels on, which were at the front of the door with the rest of the shoes, spoke as she rubbed the head of one of the young boys who had his head resting on her thighs. She had long, spiked black hair, and the same shade of blue eyes as him. She wore a tight bodysuit underneath her BDSM gear, her hero outfit, which complemented her seriously attractive body. She looked naked since the skin suit was the same color as her skin, just a shade lighter. Midnight, the 18-plus only hero. He was a teenage boy. Naturally, he knew who this bombshell was. Ni-chan/Onii-chan. Naruto was surrounded by children, other than the smiling boy who was having his hair pet by Midnight. Naruto didn't take his eyes off of Midnight for even a second, and she just smiled at him and gently pushed the boy off her lap. Naruto started to hand out small tubs of ice cream and plastic spoons to the children, handing each their favorite ice cream. A hero at this little orphanage, I'm surprised. Usually it's the other places that get visits from heroes. Naruto forced a smile on his face. Naruto blinked and did a head count, noticing that the triplets were missing. Where are Dumb, Dumber, and Dumbest at? Naruto used his affectionate names for the triplets. Naruto averted his eyes from Midnight, now only 3 ice cream tubs, small-sized, left in the bag. They got adopted. Ah, good for them. Naruto smiled wide when he heard that. A couple adopting all 3 of the triplets was great for them, not being forced apart from their siblings. I guess there are extras now, though. Naruto glanced over at Midnight, who was walking towards him, and reached into the bag, taking a cup out. These look just. Midnight licked her lips sensually. Delicious. Midnight gave her shot at teasing Naruto, breaking the ice so to say. She saw his guard was still up higher than most teenage boys, so she just peeled the top off the ice cream and used the small spoon to take a bite. They were extras, he wouldn't mind. I'm sure a hero like you isn't just here to talk to kids. Naruto looked at her with a smile, because glaring wouldn't do him any good. The fact she hadn't told the kids who he was, the only natural reason she was there, was a good thing for him. She's here to see you. That's right, I'm here just for you. Midnight poked him in the forehead. Can we speak in private? Midnight asked normally, and Naruto stood up straighter and nodded his head. He had his own personal room in the orphanage, since it used to be his parents' room when they would stay late at night to take care of children. There is fresh snow on the ground. Why don't all of you go build some snowmen? Naruto's suggestion was instantly appreciated by the children, as they ran to their rooms to go and get changed into their snow gear. When the children were all gone, Naruto turned back to Midnight. We can talk in my room. Naruto gestured for her to follow him. He had to find out a way to worm his way out of her grasp. As Midnight followed him, he was sure that he could feel her hero urge to arrest him rising. My hair is dark purple, by the way, not the black you were thinking earlier. Common mistake. I see it in cute boys' eyes all the time. Midnight spoke as they reached Naruto's room. Naruto turned his head and glanced at her with a confused look. What? I'm sorry, what? Everyone always calls my hair black, it's just a really dark purple. Common mistake, it's not really that big a deal, like how people mix up frogs and toads all the time. Midnight explained with a wide smile on her face, sadistic in nature. Do you need me to wait outside while you hide your porn mags? Midnight asked him with a cocky smirk on her face. Wait outside just a moment. Oh, an honest one. I like that. That is a youthful teenage boy right there. Midnight pat him on the top of the head. Naruto snuck into his room without letting her see inside of it. He rushed over to his bed and looked at his most recent trophy that he had gotten himself. Eraserhead's capture scarf had been something that he had a lot of trouble stealing, with Eraserhead making it difficult to use his quirk normally, but he had taken it. How did Midnight find out who he was? Naruto grabbed all of his hero trophies he had around the room and threw them into the closet. Naruto closed and locked up his closet, tossing his own villain costume into the closet as well. Okay, you can come in, Naruto called out, and he sat down on the bed, his hands slipping underneath his pillow and touching his hidden knife. Midnight walked in with a seductive hip sway, before she sat down at the chair in front of his desk, turning it to face him as she crossed her legs. So you've been skipping school a lot. I'm just here to check to see if you're alright, and talk with you about getting you back on the right track. Naruto's hand came out from under his pillow. Oh, that I've just got a lot on my plate with this place. I'm going to own this place in a few years anyway, and run it like my parents, so school isn't important. Naruto relaxed a lot more now that he realized that this wasn't about him being a villain, that maybe Midnight didn't even know that he was Kurama. It was a lot easier to relax with her in the same room. That was right, as she pointed out, he skipped school a lot. He actually went to school maybe once or twice every week. He skipped a lot. Education is important, and high school isn't just for learning, it's a place where you'll gain some of your best memories of your teenage years. Your toad quirk is pretty amazing, and in physical education you've got top marks. I even talked with your teachers, and they said you're always helping people around your school with your looks, attitude, and good quirk. I'm sure a hero high school would be perfect for you. Midnight explained a little more seriously, not an ounce of seductive purr to her tone. They were down to the issue at hand, the reason why she had been asked to help him out. She was good at getting young men to do what she wanted them to, and she was even better when it came to helping them steer their life in a better direction. I'm just not suited for it. Looking at how good you are with children, and your reputation around this area for giving people help when they ask, I would actually say you have the perfect disposition for hero work. Of course, it is your choice, but it would really be a shame. You're such a handsome young man, and being a hero would really give these children hope for the future. Midnight let out a small, this time seductive, sigh as she lowered her mask and bit the edge of it. This move always got guys to be putty in her hands, and end up putting them all in danger, because a villain wanted to attack them to hurt me? I'm not suited to being a hero, because I can't put their lives in danger. I want them to have a future. Naruto didn't even need to use his villain status as an excuse. His words rang true enough. Heroes were often subject to praise and admiration, but if he became a hero, and his real name ever became known, villains would attack the children he looked after. Midnight's eyes widened at his reason, before she nodded her head in complete understanding. That was an extremely well thought out reason. That's a shame not all villains can be like Kurama, good people who just like to have a little fun. Midnight sighed and figured she should give up trying to get Naruto into a hero school. His reasons were good, he did have a future ahead of him even without schooling. Now that's a look. Midnight realized that Naruto was sending her a surprised look. You're a hero, you said something nice about Kurama. Well, other than a few heroes with extreme views, most of us have already realized Kurama is just a boy looking for attention. He always returns what he steals, and the stuff he takes from heroes are so easy for us to replace it isn't even a bother. He seems like a good kid to me, he just likes to have fun. Sadly, he uses his quirk in public and does commit crime, and it is a hero's job to catch villains. Midnight admitted that she, among with many others, didn't really hold any real negative feelings towards Naruto, though she didn't know Kurama and Naruto were the same person. They had a job they had to do, and using your quirk to commit crimes was something a hero wasn't allowed to ignore. He's like you in a way, a boy with serious potential, but didn't choose the life of a hero. Midnight finished off with a comparison. Just using your quirk in public would get you a warning from a police officer, not even that if your quirk was super harmless. Using your quirk in a way that disrupts the public though was a big no-no, and was usually met with hero intervention. Do you have any leads on him like his identity? Naruto asked with a little more confidence in his voice. I'm sorry, I can't answer that, but if you find out anything, be sure to let me know. You know, I'm surprised you haven't been adopted. Your file said that you didn't just help run the place, but you were up for adoption. Midnight hadn't even remembered that until she realized they were still in an orphanage, and what Naruto's age was. You must be under a lot of stress, a boy your age helping take care of so many children. I hope you can find a way to release that stress. Midnight thought she was teasing him when she put her hand on her whip and teased the tip. Naruto just grinned. You. Several days later. Have no idea. What's up, Midnight? You just have no idea what I go through to get these, do you? Naruto asked in costume as he looked down at Midnight, a grin under his mask. He dropped down from the ceiling and tossed up a large diamond into the air. Seriously, it wasn't easy to do this, so what R-rated secrets do you want to whisper into my ear? Naruto asked her as he tossed the diamond up into the air a few more times, before catching it and putting it into the front of his hoodie. Oh, a boy with sass that just sets my sadistic side on fire. I'm going to teach you a lesson, and then I'll give you a special treat. Midnight flirted with him as she reached up and ripped part of her suit off, a light pink gas spilling out of her skin, uncontained by the suit. It started to fill the area, and covered Naruto in the gas. Naruto just grinned under his mask. You're wasting your time, your gas won't reach my lungs so easy. Naruto spoke as he grabbed her whip when she took a swing at him. Naruto spoke, but he never once breathed in through his mouth or nose when he did it. He's got a resistance to my quirk. This might be a little more of a challenge. Good thing I know how to hero without my quirk, since it's not very effective on women either. Midnight wrapped her hand around the side of her whip and yanked on it. She pulled the thief off his feet and towards her, only for his feet to touch the ceiling and stick to it, right above where she was standing. So, what is a cutie like you doing as a villain? A little stress relief. A fun prankster, a boy with mommy issues who wants a nice older lady to punish him. Midnight snapped her whip as she pulled it back. Naruto let loose a loud laugh as he dropped down from the ceiling in front of her and grabbed onto her wrist. She closed her mouth tightly, sending him a smirk, before he gripped her exposed bicep. He let go of her and jumped back when she tried to slap him, and he turned around and spanked his own behind to taunt her. Come and give me a spanking, one each on. Fine, if you insist. Midnight raised her whip up before it fell out of her grip, and she dropped to her knees, sitting down on her but moments later. How you didn't get your poison in my mouth? Midnight asked with her eyes widening. She made sure he didn't touch her mouth. Naruto showed his unloved hands. I can adjust the danger levels of the poison from completely harmless to fatal, but I never said that it had to be ingested. Skin-to-skin contact is all I need to put a person down, though it isn't easy to get the perfect dose. Naruto stated with a grin, showing white poison dripping from the palm of his hand like sweat. Shaking the poison from his hand, Naruto walked over to Midnight and leaned down to her level. Midnight just grinned a little at him. Gonna take my mask? Midnight asked him. Go ahead. What he didn't know was that she already bugged her mask with a tracker, so that she could find him. She was surprised when he slipped her heels off and took her stockings before putting her heels back on her. He even looked over them. She still grinned, before she was surprised when he reached into them and pulled out the trackers in them, small little things. You heroes really need to keep your meeting times a secret. I already know about the bugs, and despite what my quirk is, I'm not a fan of bugs. Naruto told her, and she blinked in confusion. What? His quirk was poison creation, wasn't it? Smack. Hey now. But you've been a bad girl still, in your 30s and still single. Might want to think about finding yourself a man with prospects. Who knows, maybe somebody can see if the carpets match those purple drapes soon. Naruto teased her as he jumped out of the window, shattering the glass, leaving a very confused Midnight behind. Now she had to know who this villain really was. Also, she wasn't old. Midnight, you're certainly staying up late. Be sure to get some rest, okay? You'll be a teacher at UE this year, and you'll still be doing your hero duties, so you've got to make sure to stay well rested. Midnight was sitting in front of a computer, but she also had her phone on a stand on her desk, and she was speaking with her father over the phone on video chat. She had just answered the phone, and looking down at herself, she realized that she had never gotten out of her costume. Her father was just teasing her a little, of course, but she took her mask off and put her regular glasses on, and she still a sweater on over her hero outfit. She would get changed out of her hero costume when her father hung up. "So, how have you been, my little flower?" "I've just been doing some research. Some stuff that Kurama said to me a few weeks ago has been stuck in my head. I've contacted the Public Records Office to get permission to go through their files in the search for who he might be," Midnight stated as she rubbed her cheek, staring at the computer screen in front of her. Since Kurama never revealed a lot about his quirk, other than the poison aspect of it, people just assumed his ability to jump across buildings was him using thick poison to stick to walls. "Oh, Kurama, he's a funny one. He seems a lot like a kid who just wants a little attention. His parents must not pay any attention to him at home, or teach him any better. Poison, sticking to walls, and he made a joke about bugs in Japan. Even when I narrow it down, there are still hundreds of people with quirks that cover these basics. There is the Ajui family, all of them have the frog quirk," Midnight explained it to her father. There were dozens of people with the frog quirk, multiple dozens on both sides of the Ajui family, who had a tradition of producing a ton of people with that quirk. There were a dozen of animal-related quirks that allowed for all of those basics, and she was able to narrow it down a little by searching only through the males who were between 13 and 17 years old. Still, she had dozens of suspects even as she looked through those names as well. "Ah, I don't understand your hero work. Speaking of family, when are you going to settle down and start one of your own? I want to hug a grandchild before my time comes." Her father spoke with a firm tone, and Midnight sputtered for a moment in shock, having not expected that. "I'm not that old." "You're already 30, dear, and you're not getting any younger. When I was your age, you were already 3 years old, and let me tell you something, and it was a miracle. We adopted a child, thinking we couldn't have one, and then you were a happy surprise a few months later. I miss your brother." Her father seemed saddened as he remembered her older brother, though both her brother and her mother had passed away in a villain attack. She nodded her head in agreement, since she missed them too. It was just her and her father in the family now. "I'm just fine, and I'm not old yet. I'm just not super young is all. I can't afford to settle down right now, or take care of a baby with pro-hero work and being a teacher. I just don't have the time to raise a child who needs a lot of attention." Midnight blinked a few times, before a wide smile started to cross her features. She looked through the list of people with quirks that would fit the bill of what Kurama's quirk might be. Naruto Uzumaki. Though, he couldn't be Kurama, since Kurama had yellow eyes with bar pupils, and their personalities were different. Not to mention, Naruto spent most of his time at the orphanage with the kids he helped out with. Still, seeing his name in the list, and her talk with her father, combined with her own thoughts, had given her a very great idea. A few weeks later. "Man, this one sucked. You're without a doubt the closest one to having captured me, but still no dice." Naruto sucked in his breath, poison dripping from any part of his exposed skin. Once more, he had been faced with another member of the top 10, this time the number 10 hero, Gang Orca, a very large man with a body that looked similar to a killer whale, with all the abilities of a killer whale to back up his appearance. He was strong, fast, and the way he could paralyze somebody with sonic waves had been tricky, though thankfully his own toad abilities also made him stronger, faster, and more durable than a normal person. Also, since his quirk included toad abilities, including creating sound waves of his own that he had been able to use to neutralize Gang Orca's hypersonic waves, and prevent himself from being paralyzed by them. "Just what is your quirk?" Gang Orca asked politely as he lay down on the ground, his face against the concrete. All of his sidekicks were surrounding him as well. After he had gone down in the battle, though, his opponent never actually threw an attack. They had tried to capture Kurama for him, only to fall to the poison as well. "Poison alone can't neutralize my sound waves, or enhance your body to be as fast or evasive as you are." Gang Orca looked out of the side of his eye at the one who defeated him. Naruto looked down at him, and took his trophy, his red tie, and put it into his pocket, before he calmed down his breath. Now that would be Naruto's phone started to go off, and he looked at it, and saw it was one of the caretakers from the orphanage. That was weird. They usually never called him until they wanted him to go and get something for the kids while he was out and about. Naruto jumped up and landed on the side of the building, before he started to hop higher and higher, until he was on the top of a taller building in the area. Sup, you're speaking with Naruto, watch and eat? Naruto answered his phone now that he was out of earshot of any heroes. Where are you right now? Just taking a walk, gotta stay in shape and all that jazz. Why are you calling me? Shouldn't you be taking care of the kids? Naruto asked, since they had a job to do, and they should be doing their job instead of wasting time talking to him. Yeah, it was technically their job to take care of him, but in a few years he would be their boss. The relationship between him and the caretakers was an odd one. They made sure never to get on his bad side since it could affect their job in the future. How fast can you get back here? Odd, ever since he became a teen, they never really set a curfew on him or asked him to come back just to come back. Hey, I've got a bone to pick with you. Give me maybe 30 minutes, 45 possibly. I wandered kind of far away. Naruto stated as he jumped back when he saw Mirko jump up to the top of the building. Naruto hung up his phone and put it back into his pocket, before he looked and saw Mirko land right in front of him. Sup, Bun Bun, I've already returned what I stole, and took my trophy from Gang Orca, and I don't have a lot of time left to play today. Can we time this for same time next week? Naruto asked her as he gestured off the building right down towards the poisoned Gang Orca and his gang of poisoned heroes. Mirko's eye twitched, and she pounded a fist into her open palm. The answer was, grrr, whatever, it's not like I wanted to chase you anyway. You better commit a crime next week, at this time, in this city though, and don't get caught by any other heroes before I catch you. Mirko growled at him in a half-shouting tone. She relaxed her shoulders, though she had flushed cheeks as well. Well, thanks for under. Mirko grabbed him by the hoodie, and pulled him into a searing kiss, glaring into his eyes, slipping her tongue into his mouth. She let go of him and disconnected, before she stepped back. Naruto was shocked when he watched her go faint from taking some of his poison. His body was still coated in a fresh layer of poison he had yet to allow to fade thanks to his recent encounter with Gang Orca. I'm still a pro-hero, dumbass. Mirko collapsed onto her side, and glared up at him. If I let a criminal escape, while being able to chase them, I would be a failure as a hero. I might not be able to move, but this time it was me who kissed you, you got that? Mirko glared up at him, making sure to put emphasis on her words just so that he understood. He didn't steal a kiss from her today, nope, today she got him back and took it from him, and he didn't defeat her either. She used his poison to defeat herself. She didn't lose, she took herself out of the game, there was a difference. Then I guess I'll be off then. Naruto jumped off the side of the building, since he didn't know what to say to that. Mirko was weird today. Later. I'm back, so what do you need me for? Naruto asked as he walked into the main office without feeling the need to knock on the door when he entered. He saw a somewhat familiar head of dark purple hair, but done up in a spiky ponytail, and she was out of her hero costume. She actually looked pretty different while wearing a non-sexual office dress that covered her body up decently like a working adult. Sadly for her, though he didn't know her real name, Naruto could recognize Midnight by the sound of her voice alone. Toad Quirk, being able to tell the difference between voices was a mini ability. Oh, hello Naruto, we were introduced a few weeks ago, but this will be your first time meet the real me, not the pro-hero Midnight. I'm Namuri Kayama. Midnight introduced herself by her real name to Naruto, since she was out of costume. Midnight, no Namuri, got up and gave a normal bow to Naruto. She extended her hand to him, and he took it. The poison on his body had already dried up until he released some more, making him safe to touch for the moment. I thought I said I wasn't going to go to UA. Naruto told her. She nodded. Well, I was talking with my own father, and I'm already 30. It's time I settled down and started my own family, but as a pro-hero and teacher, I just don't have the time to raise a baby. But there isn't a law saying that your first child has to be a baby. Namuri explained with a growing smile. OOH. Naruto realized, and a large grin came over his face. Well, there are a ton of really good kids here. I can give you a tour, and you can pick from them. They've all got really cool quirks, and I've made sure they're really well behaved. Naruto hadn't expected her here to adopt, and if that was the case, he would make sure to match her up with the perfect child for her. He grabbed her by the wrist and started to pull her. I'll take you to the girls' rooms first. As a single woman, a girl might be better for your lifestyle, but if you're looking for a boy, we've got really good boys here too. Naruto was excited. Another of his kiddos was getting a real home today, and starting their new lives with a family of their own. instead of their little makeshift family, one that was always falling apart. I've already picked. Oh well, that is cool too, just tell me their name and I'll go. Naruto Uzumaki. No, I'm too old, nobody wants me, my quirk is totally lame, and I'm going to turn 16 this year. Naruto stated as he waved her off. She was joking, this was his home, the place his parents built together. It was his destiny to be here forever, taking in kids and finding them homes. You're also up for adoption, like any child here. The head caretaker spoke to Naruto from behind the front desk. Naruto was stunned. Namiri smiled. You're right, you're 15, you're old enough to understand I won't always have time for you, and you're a good kid. You should be allowed to experience your own youth. So I adopted you, it's not much, but welcome to my small family. Namiri smiled and extended her arms to hug Naruto. When she had met him weeks ago, she had thought it was sad that a young boy was being forced to spend his time looking after others, instead of being allowed to chase his own dreams, and take care of children that would just leave him. Kurama mocking her, and her father calling her to ask her about her settling down, had made her remember Naruto and the orphanage. Then, she remembered that everyone could win if she adopted him. Her father would have a grandson, she would have started a family with a son that was mature enough to not need all of her attention, and Naruto would gain a family with her so that she could give him her unspent maternal love. Naruto wasn't smiling, and he didn't even make a move to hug her. Naruto looked at the caretaker with fury in his eyes. Just like any child, you're up for adoption. If a viable parent wishes to adopt you, they can do so. Though since you were adopted, your father's will states that this orphanage will transfer to the government, so that you can fully enjoy your new family. Naruto stopped shaking. Fine, I'm not taking your name though. If my name is the only thing I'm keeping from my parents, I'm not going to lose that. Naruto spat out, his words as harsh as poison. Namiri's smile softened. She didn't say anything though. Though she knew this was what was best for him, so that he could actually experience life, she knew this was going to be a very hard transition for him. She was changing his life, a life he had become accustomed to, but she was old enough, though still young, to have the life experience to know that he needed more experience in life, to see if this was the path he really wanted to take. Hopefully, he would come around and see it her way. Okay, I'm going to be honest, I totally didn't know you would be losing your inheritance, or know about any of the will. I just lost the orphanage, not my inheritance, my real parents. Naruto sat in a car with Namiri, frowning deeply. He had been silent, and it had been awkward for a while. Wanted the person who adopted me to not have access to the other children to protect them. Naruto stated with venom on his tongue. Not against his parents, or the children. In a super-powered world, this was the best thing for the other children. His parents had died in an accident that had been caused by a villain and hero fighting. Neither of them were heroes in the way that people judged others these days. They were just the heroes of children with no families, which was more important in Naruto's view. His parents had no doubt, through years of raising lost children, realized that they could die and leave him an orphan just like the others. So they wrote their wills with both him and the orphanage in mind. Protect? Namiri wasn't sure what to make of that. Naruto didn't tell her. The orphanage was a great place for a dangerous villain to get their hands on easy-to-train minions with quirks, ones who didn't have families, and thus could be trained into super loyal lackeys. People would do what they could to get their hands on the children, and the best way to do that would have been to get to Naruto, but by adopting Naruto one loses out on gaining the orphanage. He didn't know what other reasons his parents had for this in their will, but he knew they had to have other reasons. It was an awkward silence. I'm going to do my best to be the kind of mother you need, Namiri stated to him with a small smile, slowing to a stop as the law dictated. She glanced over at him. All of his worldly possessions were just barely enough to fit into 3 boxes, and he hadn't allowed her to watch him get them all together. Even now, he was being distant about even looking in her direction, and he was staring out of the window. He didn't even nod or show any sign he was paying attention to her, and she wiped the smile off of her face. She knew he was angry with her, and rightfully so. If you're this against it, you could have. This is Japan. Until an orphan is a legal adult, they aren't given an option about being included in the family of another without good and valid reason. Orphans can't decide who can and cannot adopt them, otherwise orphans would only ever get adopted by people who offer them nice stuff. Naruto bit back at her harshly. He wasn't a legal adult, and he had no reasons a government official would find as good and valid for refusing to be adopted. Him not wanting to be adopted wasn't good or valid in the eyes of the court, not when Midnight was a famous pro-hero with decent morals, and was as hard-working as she was. No, he had no choice, which was why he didn't have the chance to fight this, and though he could have refused to Namiri and asked her to pick somebody else, that too was off the table if the paperwork had already been completed. He couldn't afford to have a meltdown either, or risk accidentally revealing his secret to them in a blind rage. What he hated even more than being adopted was the feeling of being trapped. The caretaker told me you would be fine with it, though a little stubborn. Namiri thought with a frown. The caretaker had really pushed for her to adopt Naruto. She herself had originally wanted Naruto to get there, to talk with him, but because he was taking so long to arrive, the caretaker had already started and helped her finish the paperwork. She didn't tell Naruto this though. She knew Naruto didn't want to hear her excuses, he was too angry to listen to her, so she would let him stay angry at him until he had bonded to her a little. Then she would make sure that he got the full story, though she wondered why he was late to the meeting in the first place. If he had arrived on time, then he might have been able to talk with her. She pulled into her apartment's driveway, getting to her assigned parking spot. Do you need a hand getting your stuff inside? Namiri turned to look at Naruto when she parked, but already saw him outside of the car, getting all of his things without even looking at her. She sighed to herself, seeing that this was going to be a journey in of itself, since he didn't seem to want to give her a chance. I do understand why he is like this, though. I just hope he's willing to listen to my side of the story when he gets a little older. Namiri smiled sadly into her reflection in the car mirror. She followed after him, her longer legs letting her take the lead as they walked up the stairs to her apartment. Naruto's eye twitched. 9. Yep, good old B9, second floor, 9th room. Been here since I graduated from UA myself, and set up my agency here. Namiri stated with a wide smile. She had fond memories in this apartment. I cleaned up the guest room, so make yourself at home. This is your home now, after all. I've got to go speak with the apartment landlord, and let him know about you living here. My rent is going to go up over this. Namiri waved at him as she started to walk back down the stairs. Oh. I saw you were using a flip phone the other day, so I got you a new phone, and added it to my phone plan. Namiri stated as she saw him take his old phone from his pocket and look down at it. Right, his phone was going to be taken off the orphanage data plan, since he was no longer going to be living there, so he needed a new phone and a new number. Naruto walked into the clean apartment. The only thing dirty about the place was Namiri's midnight costume was laying on the couch, and she had her old costume hanging on the wall before she had been forced to change it. Naruto passed by the table, and saw that his new phone was there. It wasn't the newest model, nor was it a used one either. It was a decent phone that was leagues better than his own. It had a sticky note on top of it though, so he looked at it. Welcome to the family, plan. Heroes and their jokes, Naruto grunted as he put the phone in his pocket reluctantly, since he didn't have a choice in the matter but to accept it. His own phone was going to be useless soon enough. He saw Midnight's room, and he saw an open room that he could see was recently cleaned, so his room. He ignored everything else and walked into the room, and set his boxes down. There was a dresser, a closet, a bed way nicer than his one at the orphanage, and he had a portable heater next to the bed, a heater that looked brand new. Yep, since it's still pretty cold, and I keep the apartment on the cool side, I figured you would be more comfortable if your room was warmer. This was made for people with quirks that don't deal well with the cold. You can leave it on, and it won't cause any fires either. Figured you might want it. Naruto wasn't surprised when Namiri walked up behind him and stated that, twisting the knob on the heater and turning it on. A gentle, warm breeze started to flow out of it into the room, and Naruto noticed that there were several other things in the room that seemed to be new as well. She won't buy me off. Naruto turned his head away from Namiri with a glaring glance into her direction. Yeah, I looked up the toad quirk, so I tried to make this room comfortable for you. Got a humidifier to keep the room nice too, and I got permission to paint the room. You seemed like a vibrant guy. Namiri commented as she gestured to the room. She didn't want to sound quirkist, judging him based on his quirk, but with his black pants and orange hoodie, she guessed that he liked colors that were related to toads. Green, brown, orange, red, and black. orange, red, and black and toad that sounded familiar to her for some reason, but she couldn't pinpoint the reason why a toad with those colors sounded familiar to her. The room is the same colors as my Kurama outfit, orange, black, and red. Naruto noticed the colors, but he could also tell that she didn't do that on purpose. Those colors were his Kurama colors, but they were also the colors of some of the more popular toad breeds as well. It was why he chose the colors he chose, though nobody needed to know that. He liked the colors, and they were something that worked with his quirk. You're not going to try and force me to be a hero? Naruto turned and glanced at her, looking her dead in the eye. She shifted a little, but she wasn't uncomfortable. Not if you don't want to, but I do want you to go to a good high school. I'll be a teacher at UA, and it is more than just a hero school. There are also general studies. I am sorry you lost your orphanage, but maybe this is your chance to make your own. Namuri wanted to support his dreams if she could. His dream might have been crushed by her, but maybe she could help repair some of the damage that she had done. She could help him start a new orphanage. I've got to unpack. Okay, I'm going to make dinner. If you need help, let me know, Namuri stated as she left the room, closing the door behind her. Later that night. I'm going to make dinner. If you need help, let me know, bitch, Naruto whispered with a deep frown under his mask. He wasn't going around town as Kurama tonight to commit any crimes or anything, he just wanted to get out of the apartment with midnight. He jumped from building top to building top, hopping quickly and without even a single keeping his eyes completely open. He was in costume, he might as well commit a crime and collect a trophy from whatever hero was around. Aha! Not even a week, and I get a chance to have another go at you then. Naruto dodged Mirko out of pure instinct alone, back-flipping and landed on top of the next building. She followed after him, and he raised his arms up, sitting down on the edge of the building. I haven't done anything yet. I promise, next week, I'll steal from some museum in this area. I'm just really angry and need to clear my head a bit, Naruto told Mirko as she landed next to him, clicking her teeth and sitting down. She had recovered from his poison hours ago, and she had wanted to stretch her legs again, and imagine her luck when she ran into her favorite villain to chase as well. If he wasn't doing any crimes at the moment, then chasing him would be less fun. Also, if he was just out to clear his head because of emotional reasons, beating him would feel way less satisfying. Beating you up won't be fun if you're doing anything to deserve it. Mirko just sat down next to him and watched the city down below the buildings, keeping an eye out for crime. She knew as a hero, she was sitting next to a villain, but this was a little different. This villain was special, and she wanted to beat him at his best, on the top of his game, not when he was conflicted about something. Also, since he returned all of his stolen goods, it was kind of weird to attack him for a theft that he made amends for. He was a one-of-a-kind villain. He was a quirky villain. It's cold outside tonight. Meh, with my quirk, it doesn't bother me, and with muscles like these, Mirko flexed her arm and gave her bicep a kiss. The cold is just a thing of the past. Anyway, wanna talk about whatever it is that is putting you down? Mirko asked him with a wide grin. She had to admit that she was curious about what had him. Not really. Okay then. If he didn't want to talk about it, then she wouldn't even try and force it out of him either. He would speak his mind when he wanted to, not before that point. Sometimes people didn't want to talk their issues out. We're both adults here, personal issues aside, wanna start dating after I take you down and all of that stuff? Mirko asked with a giant grin on her face. She thought about it, and she had fun chasing him. She could tell that when she caught him, it wouldn't be enough. This was a villain that she wanted to beat up and capture more than just his body, possibly his heart. She was 25 years old, and she was getting to the point where she needed to take a boyfriend at the very least. She didn't want to be like the Wild Pussycats or Midnight, and not take a boyfriend until she got much older. She had fun when chasing this villain, and other than being a villain, he was a good person. Adults, Naruto looked at her, ignoring the dating thing for now. How old are you? Naruto asked her, and she puffed out her chest in pride. A young 25. I turn 26 soon though. What are you, 21, 22? I'm 15 also, don't tell anyone I'm 15. Ah. Oh my god, that is priceless. Mirko just laughed when she quickly realized that this super skilled villain that was evading every hero that faced him was young enough to be starting his first year of high school soon. All of the top heroes, including herself, should be ashamed that they had been taken down by a 15-year-old. Guess I got to wait a few months to be a romantic interest then, huh? Mirko hummed out loud when she stopped laughing, realizing there was about a 10-year gap between them. That wasn't small. What? Naruto was just confused by Mirko. In this prefecture, just because the age of consent is 13 is a good portion of Japan, some places argue the corruption of minors and raise local age of consent to about 16. The only exception to this law is when the two people are in a sincere romantic relationship. Mirko quoted the law with quotation marks and everything. Yeah, he had a good body, and was fun for her. Not to mention she already considered him to be somebody that she could pursue, so she didn't mind if he was a bit younger than she was or a villain. Anyway, heroes live in the danger zone, can't let something like age mess with my standards anyway. It wasn't like I was ever going to go public with the relationship. Bad publicity to date a villain. Mirko shrugged her shoulders. She had to admit, this was a little bit of a surprise, but if anything, it gave her something to really look forward to. He was still going to grow, mature, get stronger, meaning that he would become even more of a challenge for her to catch in Arichi future. Are you stupid? No, but I am attracted to your balls. Mirko realized what that sounded like. And by that I mean, I'm attracted to your guts. You're my type of guy, but don't worry about me going boy crazy like a certain wild pussycat. I'm just a girl who knows what she wants, and doesn't see the point of pussyfooting around. Mirko got up and stretched herself out. She couldn't stay seated for long, she just had too much energy she needed to get out of her body, part of why she was perfect to be a hero. She could pursue villains until they were out of energy, and then beat them up. 10 years. Mirko flicked his forehead. Kurama, you figure out the personal shit in your life first, get that settled, and then respond to my confession. Just like I don't want to capture you when you're not at your best, I don't want a boyfriend who made a decision when he wasn't in his right mind. Accept or reject me, do it when your head is on straight. Because if you date me, then there is no going back from it. Mirko looked into his blue eyes before she blinked when she noticed that his eyes were blue, instead of the yellow that they usually were. Also, he lacked the orange rings around his eyes. His eyes no longer looked like a toad's eyes. She didn't comment on it though, and just filed it away in her head for later. She wasn't going to try and figure out his secret identity until she was chasing him down for real. This soft moment between them wasn't the right time or place to chase his ass down and beat him up. You're really that confident? Naruto asked her with a raised eyebrow. I'm a tan-skinned, white-haired bunny girl with a bombshell body, an awesome personality. And don't forget how humble you are just so humble. If you had a middle name, it would be Humble. Naruto told her, since she was bragging about herself a lot there. She shrugged her shoulders and leaned back a little, so that she was about to fall off of the building. She would be fine. Hey, people should speak their minds. Being humble is just a person deciding to downplay their own good traits anyway. There is a crime going on a few blocks away. See you later, Kurama. Mirko saluted at him and fell off the side of the building, kicking off and chasing after a moving car that was causing chaos in the roads, and Naruto could hear gunfire. Well, Mirko took his mind off of his anger for the moment. Looking on the bright side. That there is a real villain suit, made to be perfect for your particular quirk. Naruto looked down at his new outfit with a slightly suspicious glance towards the man who had given it to him. A man who had located him during his nightly watch of the orphanage. Naruto didn't trust the caretakers, so he spent a few hours every night watching his old home, had asked him to follow him towards a small and unused building nearby. He was a tall man, normal build, with great hair and a purple suit, with a knocked-out tooth in his crooked grin, as well as worn glasses. He looked kind of like a dirty pimp, to be honest, and he smelled like cigarettes, since he was smoking one even now. Naruto was wearing the suit he had been given. I came here to humor you when you said you had something for Kurama, but this outfit is way too well fitted to my body, Naruto stated as he looked at the far too creepy man, who had known his sizes way too well. Naruto was wearing a black shirt that clung to his skin, with an orange stripe going down the front of it where the zipper was. His once black facial mask was replaced by a tighter, black face mask that clung to his lower face and neck. It was super easy to breathe in, and it had a small slit that was covered by cloth so that he could easily make use of his mouth without lowering his mask, the slit invisible to the naked eye. He wore tight, but comfortable, black pants with the orange stripe going down the side of each of his legs. His cloak had been replaced by a short-sleeved cloak, this cloak having a hoodie connected to it, meaning Naruto's forearms were exposed. The cloak itself stuck to his body pretty tightly as well, and it was open in the front. Finally, Naruto was wearing pure orange shoes, with the soles of the shoes being black and flat. Getting your sizes was easy, Kurama, and seeing as your quirk lets you secrete poison from your body, having your arms exposed makes sense. Not to mention, the material will keep your body heat and more easily perfect for a toad. The man spoke with a smirk still on his face. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Before he looked at the clothes, usually when he was in criminal mode, he took off his shoes so that he could stick to buildings more easily. These clothes were made for people with a toad or frog quirk, allowing him to make better use of his abilities. If you know my quirk, you know I can't pay for this. Jiren, and payment isn't needed this time from you. Your outfit has already been paid for by a very generous man that has been very impressed with your work. Okay then, I'll be on my way. Naruto grabbed the box of copies of the outfit he was wearing, since the outfit was already paid for, and made his way to the window. Knowing he wasn't going to have to pay for it was great for him, and he didn't need any more info, since he was pretty sure he didn't want to know who he had impressed with his work. Thanks for the outfit, it's pretty cool, gonna take it for a test drive. Naruto jumped out of the window, and touched his foot to the outside, sticking it to the wall. So, his clothes were able to match this well with his quirk. Aren't you interested in who is interested in you? He would like to meet with you in person. Jiren started before he smirked wider when Naruto just jumped out of the window completely, not saying another word to him. Taking out his phone from his back pocket, he showed that there was an active call going on. The kid doesn't seem like he would join your league. I'm still keeping the money either way. Jiren spoke to the person on the other end of the phone. Keep the money, a villain with talent like his doesn't come often enough. A relationship of trust isn't built in one meeting. I wish to simply see that talent bloom. If he joins the league is a non-issue. Jiren just shrugged and ended the call. With Naruto. Even as cold as it is tonight, despite the weather warming up a little, I'm not as cold as I should be. Naruto said as he jumped from roof to roof easily enough. Naruto still had his backpack on, which had his normal clothes hidden inside of it. Naruto grinned underneath his mask, and flipped off the side of the building, skating down the side by only lightly touching it with his fingertips. Still, the heat of the clothes wasn't perfect, so if he stayed in the cold too much longer, it was going to start to have an effect on him either way. Kurama, this time I'm taking you dash. Naruto landed on Empty Lady's face when she grew in size in front of him, and he touched her tongue with the palm of his hand. She instantly started to shrink down. She must be doing a night patrol since this was her area, and saw him, before she collapsed on the sidewalk. Naruto landed next to her, and she glared up at him. Sup, empty backside, you seem in high spirits, did something good happen? Naruto asked with a quirky quip against her. He didn't care that she had attacked him out of nowhere, or the fact that since it was so late nobody was watching him take down a hero. Also, I didn't commit any crimes tonight, so Naruto felt a person take a step behind him, before he jumped up when wooden stakes started to try and wrap around him. Kamui Woods. Oh right, Empty Lady and Kamui Woods had formed a hero team together recently, so if she was on patrol, he was no doubt nearby with her. Villain, epitome of evil, tonight is the night that. Cut the drama, Kamui Woods, the guy is just a jerk, not some epitome of evil, cool your tits. Empty Lady told her partner with a deadpan. She had already been paralyzed, there was nothing left for her to do at this point. So villain YWCH. Naruto poked Kamui Woods in the eye, underneath the mask, with a bored expression in his eyes. His fingers still covered in poison from having used it on Empty Lady, so down Kamui Woods went in moments. Naruto could secrete poison, but it usually lasted a good while before his body was safe to the touch again. See, when you go into big speeches, this asshole interrupts like every time. Go ahead and take something. Naruto started to walk away. I only collect trophies when I actually beat you. This time I didn't really beat you guys, so maybe next time I commit a crime in the area, I'll take part of your costume. I'm just taking a stroll is all, so see you heroes later. Naruto waved them off, leaving them on the side of the road as cars started to pull over to see what was going on. Hey Kurama, turn towards me, my kid is a really big fan, and I want a picture. Naruto sent a peace sign and a wink towards the car that had pulled over, and a picture was snapped of him instantly. With the picture done, Naruto jumped up towards the nearest building and started to crawl up the side of it. His popularity as a fun villain was going through the roof with each hero he played with. Naruto started to hum to himself as he started to leap from building to building again. I've come so far, floating. Running through the north to the west. Naruto spoke the next lyrics of the song when he noticed a person was jumping nearby him, and had sung the lyrics he was humming. Naruto grinned when he wasn't being attacked since he saw a person about his own age, also in costume, using her quirk as well. At last I've Eris, but where? Naruto asked the girl, and she smiled widely at him. She was cute. A thin, petite body and shorter than him, a small flattened chest, but with wide hips and a rather well-off rear end. She had a very mature body, if you didn't count her lack of boobs, and she showed it off with a succubus-like costume that was open at the cleavage, a one-piece black leotard that exposed her hips and a super miniskirt so that the entire ass was pretty much showing, including some tiny devil wings from her lower back, and black thigh-high boots. Pink hair, pushy and in ponytails, and bright pink eyes. I don't know the rest of the song, just saw you jumping around, she admitted with a nervous rub of the back of her head. You're pretty infamous around here as a strange villain, she explained as she hopped next to him, matching his pace for the most part. Naruto was curious about her. I prefer quirky villain, and you sure it's okay for you to be jumping around in that outfit this late at night? Some bad guys might decide to try something. Naruto corrected her on that. Also, who are you? Naruto asked with a scratch of his head. This is why I need some publicity, call me Pop Step, you know, with all this strange villain. Quirky villain. Stuff, I've been having trouble keeping up with my online views. I'm not a villain, Pop Step quickly stated when she realized that she might be misunderstood. So, I was thinking you're really good at picking great locations for going public. You want to help him out, and expand my base. I'll make it worth your while. Pop Step squeezed her fingers together. Naruto deadpanned at her. I'm a villain, not a manager. I'm not going to stop you from following me around though, you do you. Come on, let's just exchange numbers. I like to sing and dance, and you like to dance around with heroes. Oh come on, I'm a pretty girl, just say yes already. Pop Step complained to him when she saw he didn't change his expressions towards her. She was really cute, so he should have agreed to her reasonable request pretty easily. Please, I really want to up my views and having you in some videos will really help me out. I'll give you my autograph. Pop Step added that little bonus in. He chuckled. He was having a really active night. Tell you what, you can do something for me. I need an alibi for when I'm Kurama, and I bet you need an alibi when you're Pop Step. You help me with that, and I help you with what you're doing. Naruto offered her a real deal. She paused before she smiled. Deal. Naruto extended his hand to her, as they were jumping, and she took his hand happily. Seconds later, she dropped onto the roof of the next building they landed on, without getting hurt thanks to her quirk, and found herself unable to move. Naruto landed next to her, and took her phone out of her purse, before he took her fingerprint and unlocked it. Adding her number to his phone, he added his own to hers as well. Sorry, I poisoned heroes a few minutes ago, you'll be able to move again in a few minutes. Naruto explained to her with a hidden grin. It was always good to have an alibi. Kurama. Now listen, I know what you're planning on doing, and let me just tell you it's not going to end how you think it will. Naruto explained as he hopped over Ryukyu's dragon form as she reached out to grab onto him. This time, Naruto had decided that he would steal directly from the hero directly at their own office. Naruto had broken into Ryukyu's hero office and stolen her off-duty clothes, meaning that she was stuck in her hero costume unless she wanted to go to her house in her hero costume. Naruto had it hidden in a hidden pocket inside of his jacket as he ran from her. Ryukyu jerked her head around and looked behind herself. You won't escape capture forever, you're going to slip up. Ryukyu didn't see him behind her, instead, she felt him standing on her back. She turned her neck at an odd angle and tried to snap her jaws at him to capture him inside of her mouth. He ducked. You know, you heroes are on the news all the time, most of your opponents are aware of what you can do. Heroes are naturally at a disadvantage as well, and you still don't know my quirk either. Naruto explained as he grabbed onto her lower jaw and she made sure to snap her jaws closed so he couldn't poison her. He wasn't even upset though, he just grinned and stuck himself to her. Heroes had a lot of trouble to compete with, before their fights even begun. I just have to distract him long enough for the others to arrive, Ryukyu thought as she started to whip her head back and forth. She needed to stick to the plan. You know, your panties are surprisingly sexy. You think you're going to get lucky tonight? She needed to hurt this little shit. They are more comfortable, gak. Ryukyu transformed back into human form when Naruto had poisoned her the second she opened her mouth, sticking his hand onto her tongue. She was blushing even in human form, while Naruto stood above her, holding onto his string panties, spinning them around his finger while giving her a cocky look. You've beaten me, so escape, why don't you? Ryukyu spat with a twitching eye. While his acts were seen as little more than pranks most of the time now, the fact remains that a villain was beating heroes and causing them some image hurt. Thankfully, the criminals he inspired to copy him weren't as talented as he was, and were captured as soon as they committed a crime. That helped to tame the flow of people who tried to copy him, since he stood out as a unique exception to villains losing to heroes. So your backup should be arriving in like 3 seconds, right? Naruto asked her with a grin. You know I'm really good at spying on heroes, Naruto mentioned when he heard the sounds of somebody large walking behind him. Then you'll do good behind. Like Endeavor, for example, spiking his morning coffee before stealing from your office, and knowing you two were conspiring against me really makes this funnier. Naruto didn't even look behind him. He didn't need to in order to see that the flame hero was on the ground, having collapsed from the fact he was already poisoned before the battle even took place. Hey Endeavor, did you know that when you have a tall building as your base of operations, villains like me can sneak in really easy? Naruto turned and finally looked at Endeavor, face first on the ground. He was growling at Naruto. When did you dash? When you were mumbling to yourself about your son or whatever. When you're mumbling about your son, you ignore everything around you. This is like the 9th time I've snuck into your office, and you've never noticed me. Naruto didn't like to brag, total lie, he loved bragging, but the fact that Endeavor was arrogant and didn't check his office for villains really made it a lot easier for him to sneak in and out. So, that takes care of the number 9 and number 2 heroes. You know, Endeavor, other than being an ass, I do like you more than All Might, Naruto stated as he took Endeavor's shoes. Endeavor just growled more at the sarcasm he believed he could hear in Naruto's voice. Poisoning me before the battle even started. Hey, you people have been holding meetings on how to take me out. Guys gotta even the playing field though. It seems Mirko doesn't drink her coffee. Naruto frowned when he jumped into the air, just as Mirko slammed into the ground where he had been, cratering it with ease. He landed on the side of the building, watching as the smoke cleared, and Mirko was revealed. Coffee tastes bitter, and makes me poop, so I don't drink it if I can help it. You should have poisoned my carrot juice instead. I would have been so poisoned by that, but now I'm going to pummel you, Mirko shouted, and gave him advice at the same time. Ryukyu and Endeavor looked at her like she was stupid. And I went through so much trouble poisoning the entire top 10 today. Come on then, try and catch me. Naruto grinned down at Mirko. His body started to vanish from view, his clothes vanishing as well, leaving Mirko confused at first, until her rabbit ears picked up the sound of Naruto moving on the side of the building. He can go invisible, that doesn't add up with poison, Ryukyu stated under her breath, confused. Endeavor didn't correct her, but he noticed that Naruto wasn't completely invisible, but instead, he was making himself the same color as the building behind him. Looking carefully, you would be able to see him, and to color change properly, he needed to move slowly or stay still so that his disguise wasn't ruined. He's on the ground, Mirko, in front of you 10 meters. Endeavor directed Mirko, and she jumped into action, causing Naruto to slowly turn back to his normal colors. He jumped backwards and avoided Mirko easily enough. He was practiced with avoiding her more than anyone else. No fun, and I wanted to test out this outfit's ability to change color as I changed my skin's poison color. Naruto lied about his quirk in a subtle way, giving them a wrong explanation about why he was able to change his skin color. Now, they would think that he covered his body in differently colored poisons, so that he blended in with his surroundings. It would help throw them off his quirk's trail. Naruto grinned and he landed on Endeavor's back, giving him a pat on the top of the head. Get off me! Oh, you are just the cutest. Naruto gave Endeavor's cheeks a few gentle slaps, adding a little more poison to cripple his ability to use his quirk to burn stuff around him. Endeavor grew even weaker, and his quirk weakened with him. Anyway, from now on, I promise not to sneak into your base and poison you guys if you promise not to make plans to gang up on me in 10 versus 1 matches. So you also poison All Might then? Mirko asked as she jumped at Naruto, throwing a spin kick at him. Oh, All Might was the easiest one. Some fan of him sent him a lot of milk this morning, so I poisoned it, and I stayed to make sure that he drank enough. I'm not fast enough to escape from that guy without cheating, so I didn't want him even showing up today. Naruto reached into his jacket pocket, and he pulled out something golden colored. It was hair. Naruto had a fistful of hair that kind of stood up on its own, and it was cleanly cut through, and Naruto put the hair up against the top of his head, giving himself a slight bunny ear. Naruto quickly put his trophy back into his pocket, and jumped away from Mirko, before he started to escape the area. Oh, then now I have to catch you. Catching the guy who took out All Might, now that will get me some popularity. Mirko shouted as she used all of her power to rush at Naruto. Shit! Naruto screamed when he realized that he had just painted the biggest target on himself he could have ever painted. Naruto looked at the reporters who were recording this event, and he was nearly kicked in the head by Mirko. He had taken All Might out, because he knew All Might would have caught him, but he didn't realize by taking All Might out and advertising it to all of Japan, that he had just did something really stupid. Him and his big dumb mouth. Why did he open his mouth and say that? I'm coming. Please don't. Also, you've got some weird fetishes. Naruto couldn't resist the urge to open his mouth and quip at her when she said that. His villain persona demanded that he make light of his current, very bad, situation since she set him up for a one-liner. Shit, Naruto cursed in his head, and he traveled at his top speed to get away from Mirko until he had the chance to take her down. With All Might. I really should be more careful about what I drink. All Might, a super tall and skinny man with messy hair, spoke to himself as he laid face down on the ground, listening to the news he had playing in his office. One of his hair horns was missing from his head, so he was going to have to get hair extensions until his hair naturally grew back to its normal length. Even with his power, it didn't mean much if he wasn't able to move his body because he had been poisoned. Some quirks could kill even him if he was hit with them, and he was thankful he hadn't been poisoned with something that would have killed him. Though, he would use this as a learning experience. Back with Naruto. Achoo. Titan Cliff. Naruto crashed into the softest thing he had ever felt in his life, as Empty Lady and Kamui Woods appeared in front of him, coming up out of the water and appeared in front of him, blocking his escape route. Naruto crashed right into Empty Lady's right tit, sinking into her flesh deep enough that his entire body sank into her boob, before her breast returned back to its normal shape and he bounced out of her breast. Naruto was sent flying in the opposite direction, cursing the fact that he had sneezed at a time like this. Whoever made him sneeze, Naruto hoped that he was having a bad day. Naruto made it work for him through, and touched Mirko's face as he passed by her, before he landed in the river himself. Naruto started to swim down to the bottom of the river, using his toad quirk to speed himself up greatly. Reaching the bottom of the river, and it was a cold river, Naruto started to swim away, no longer visible to the heroes who were pursuing him. He saw Mirko land in the water, the poison taking her down, and he saw Empty Lady's massive hand scoop Mirko up out of the water back to safety. Still, he needed to be super careful about how much he ran his mouth off in the future. He hoped this didn't come to bite him in the ass. Damn him, he had All Might on a silver platter, and didn't finish him off. Damn him, characters like him make the game that much harder. A young adult spoke as tapped his finger against the bar he was sitting at, and he was the only person in the entire bar other than a man with a shadow-like face wearing a business suit, his own clothes being simple, but with hands covering them. He looked upwards at the TV that was in the room, gritting his teeth as he watched the news rave and rant about the friendly villain who was able to take out the top 10 without hurting them. Kurama will just never be caught, will he? After all, I can't see a villain able to take out All Might as somebody who can be caught. The young man tapped against the table even faster. The bartender didn't tense up, he just looked at the young man with his glowing eyes, and turned his head towards a black radio, turning it up when he heard a voice coming out of it. Now, Tamura, that isn't a way to speak of your natural ally. Master, I want to kill All Might, and this guy could have done it, but he didn't. He left All Might alive. I want to kill him. He needs to die for not taking the chance I would have died for. Tamura spoke as he tapped his finger furiously against the table. He looked like he was going to snap any moment, his throat sounding sandy, and his other hand was scratching at his throat a little. A small chuckle came through the radio. He'll join the League of Villains soon enough. This is where he belongs. Kurojiru, your opinion? Is that why you had Jiren supply him with those outfits? To bribe him? Kurojiru asked as he glanced at the radio, never stopping what he was doing. He maintained a professional air about him. No, he doesn't need to be bribed. He will come naturally to us. If he were to take up a villain mantle, then it is simply fitting that he wears fitting clothes. Tamura, he's a valuable ally, and the more famous he becomes, the more heroes will pursue him for fame. We have no need to do anything to convince him. We've already showed our generosity. He will remember that we never asked for anything in return, and join us once the hero world becomes too much for him. You sound sure of this. Who is this boy to you? Kurojiru asked through the radio as Tamura listened to the conversation, his eyes softening now that he was listening to his master's voice more clearly. He comes from a line of people immune to having their quirks stolen. His mother had a rare quirk, sealing chain, which could create chains that would wrap around others, and seal both their abilities to move and use their quirks. Suffice to say, I tried and failed to steal her quirk, so I went to her parents, and failed to steal their quirks, and when her son was born, I failed to steal his toad quirk. They are immune to All for One, your power? Tamura asked with narrowing eyes. All for One, the power to steal, use, and give away the quirks of others with nothing but a touch to somebody's forehead. Nobody but the person with One for All could ever hope to avoid having their quirk stolen from them, but to hear a genetic line of people were able to resist his quirk-stealing power was frightening, to be honest. To see his perfect master had people he wasn't able to steal from was scary. Not immune completely when this young man was born. When I tried to steal his quirk, I also tested this. I tried giving him a quirk, and that worked. Not only is their lineage able to not have their quirk stolen, but they can also hold multiple quirks with no negative side effects. All for One spoke through the radio with some excitement audible in his voice. So he's using multiple quirks to evade the heroes. Cheater. He is so far unaware he even holds more than a single quirk, but soon, once he tastes true anger, his other quirks will activate. Until then, just allow him to make jokes of the heroes. All for One stated with a slightly more forceful tone, just to show that he was serious about leaving Naruto alone for the moment. Once his heart is flooded with hate, then the world would come face to face with a monster. Yue High School. I'm not becoming a hero. I know you don't want to be a hero, and I'm not going to make you. Nemuri sat across the table from Naruto. She had managed to catch him as he came home from school before he vanished for the afternoon. He had been staying at the apartment the last few days, without leaving like he usually did, so she wanted to show him something that she had been working on for him. I said I was going to support you if you wanted to make a new orphanage. I am sorry that you lost your birthright. I didn't know. I don't want. Please let me finish. Nemuri was very patient, but she didn't like being interrupted by anyone. She could understand, Naruto was going to hold a grudge against her, and she accepted that. That didn't change the fact that she had decided to adopt him, and by adopting him, she became his family, his mother. She had made a promise to herself that she was going to do her hardest to give him a better life, and love him. She blinked when she saw Naruto frown, and she waited for him to say something biting. Then finish. I don't want your excuses though. Naruto crossed his arms and got comfortable, staring her down with his full attention. She blinked in surprise. Also, was it her, or did he seem really tired, and kind of pale? Me being sorry won't change things. I'm going to fix my mistake. I want to help you start anew, but you have to graduate from a high school. Your test scores from your current school aren't good. Nemuri wasn't going to hide this fact. Naruto attended school just barely enough to allow him to graduate from middle school, and his test scores reflected that very well as well. But I can get you into UA with a letter of recommendation. I promise to help you be able to give orphan children the gift of having a family, and I will tutor you myself, but UA is the only school that I can submit my recommendation to as a teacher. Nemuri explained to him, and she waited for him to interrupt her or say something biting. He didn't. He frowned more deeply, and tightened his arms up in front of his chest, but she smiled a little when she saw he was considering her words a little. Go on, Naruto told her when he saw her waiting. You're listening to me? I don't have a choice, do I? Yui isn't just a hero school, it has an excellent support class, business class, and general studies. I spoke with the principal, and he said the general studies would be happy to have you on my recommendation. Nemuri, smiling a little, reached out to touch the side of Naruto's face to enact a little skinship with him, was saddened when he moved his head back to refuse her that. He was willing to listen to her talk now, but she could see he still hadn't forgiven her of the fact that she stole his family legacy from him. She had uprooted his life and his dreams for the future, so it was no surprise that it would take some time before she was forgiven, and more time before he really came to see her as his mother. Still, he didn't jerk away from her as violently as she expected he would have. I don't want to run an orphanage. I wanted my parents' orphanage. I wanted to continue their legacy. Naruto's eyes narrowed in anger at her, because he had put some thought into it. His parents had died before they could truly be parents, and they turned him into an orphan, but they had left him with such a large legacy. He had been proud that he would have eventually been able to own their business. He had looked forward to it when he learned that his toad quirk being lame, and him being a teenage boy meant he wasn't likely to be adopted. Now that he was adopted, and lost out on the orphanage, he was more lost now than ever. Well, what do you want? Nemuri was willing to help him achieve his dreams, whatever they be now. Naruto didn't answer, he just took the enrollment forms for Yue and looked down at them. Before he squeezed them tight enough, he almost ripped them. Nemuri patiently waited with her hands on her leg, right crossed over left, and just sat silently as he looked over everything. She saw rage and sadness boiling over in his eyes as they trembled with emotion. I don't know what I want anymore, Naruto whispered to himself, not Nemuri. He didn't even mean to whisper it out loud. His thoughts just sort of escaped his mouth, and she could see not just the rage now, or the sorrow, but she could see he was confused as well. She had turned his life upside down, and this was why she was so patient with him. He was angry, sad, confused, and he didn't know what to do anymore. She understood his teenage emotions very well. She had experienced all of them herself, when she was his age or at some point in her life. She already fucked up in forcing the adoption on him, even though she hadn't meant to hurt him. He didn't hate her, and deep down, she was sure that he understood her feelings were genuine, but he was driven by emotion, not logic or reasoning. You don't have to join UA. If you don't get into a high school, I'll tutor you and help you pass the entrance exams of any school you pick. UA is the best high school, and I knew I could get you in before the year starts. Nemuri didn't want him to think that this was the only choice he had at this point. Naruto glanced at her, his grip on the papers softening, though he was still angry. Fine, you and I'll go to Udata. Naruto got up and started to head towards the bathroom, leaving her sitting alone. Nemuri sighed in relief and relaxed. Still, that was stressful. I didn't know if he was going to fly into a rage. I wish he would yell at me, and get some of this off of his chest. Nemuri sighed to herself, and ran a hand through her ponytail. She had started to read several books on motherhood, tips about how to grow closer with your son. She also read books about what to expect with adopted children, and how to grow closer to them. Skinship was mentioned as the #1 way to form a closer bond, and she remembered taking baths with her mother and father until she was in middle school, and she was extremely close to her father still. She knew friends of her that still went to hot springs and public baths with their parents, but she was also pretty sure Naruto would not have a great reaction to her if she tried to form a bond with him right now, skinship or not. With Naruto. I'm so damn dizzy, my head hasn't been right since I escaped from Mirko the other day. My head is pounding. Naruto rubbed the side of his head, not thinking super clearly with his headache. Nemuri's actions and words were getting to him too, so walking towards the tub, Naruto turned the heat on so that by the time he showered, the tub would be heated up. Naruto shook his head to clear the webs from his brain. Later that night. Naruto, you've had the water running for a while now. I think you've showered long enough. Nemuri knocked on the door, waiting for an answer back. She could still hear the shower running, and it had been running for a long time now, almost 2 hours. She had gotten so preoccupied making dinner and reading a book that she hadn't even noticed that Naruto was still in the shower. No answer. Nemuri frowned and cracked open the door, just in case he didn't hear her when she was speaking, but she made sure to respect his privacy by not looking. Naruto, your shower is done now. Other people need to. Nemuri opened the door completely when she noticed Naruto's leg flat on the ground, and seeing him fully, she saw that he had collapsed at some point, the water just running across the back of his head as he laid prone. She rushed to his side and the water started to rain down on her, wetting her clothes, as she flipped him over and saw his face was boiling red. She put the back of her head against his forehead, and saw that he was burning up. She put her hand on his chest, and could feel his heartbeat moving weakly. Nemuri picked Naruto up and rushed out of the bathroom, rushing into her own room and laying him down on her bed as she got him out of the hot water. She didn't waste a moment to grab her phone as she started to dial up somebody that could help her. The next day, at the hospital. He's not dying, he's just really sick. His immune system was depleted, seems he took a dip in cold water and weakened himself. His blood work showed traces of chlorine. People with toad or frog quirks can absorb liquids and oxygen through their skin. Normally, this isn't a problem with a human immune system being strong. The doctor spoke as he looked at the charts. Nemuri had rushed Naruto to a hospital, since she didn't know what was wrong with him, or what to do. And? He's sick, and his body absorbed chlorine from overchlorinated water. Sometimes water companies put too much in the water they purify. He'll recover soon enough. He needs to use organic shampoo and body wash without chemicals until he fully recovers though. The doctor started to write down the proper stuff that he should be using with his skin being the way it was. We see this a lot with those with amphibian-like quirks. When they get sick, their bodies lose their resistance to chemicals that they can usually withstand with ease. The doctor eased Nemuri's worries. Her hand went to her heart. Thank you, this is a relief. I'll go pick up what I need. You have no idea how worried I was. You came rushing into the hospital in a soaked sweater, riding an ambulance with a naked teenager, demanding medical attention. It says you adopted him. I suggest reading up about toad facts. I'll do that. Nemuri didn't argue against him, or even say that she was already doing that. She wasn't researching toads, she had just looked up some stuff about people with toad/frog quirks and how they reacted to certain things. Naruto's mutation quirk didn't affect his physical appearance, so it was very easy to forget the fact that he was still very much a mutant type, and thus, he was prone to following the rules of the species he was mutated after. Nemuri reached down to pat Naruto's head. She stopped herself though, uncomfortable. Naruto hadn't accepted her yet, so she would hold herself back. Whoa, Midnight, surprise surprise, didn't expect to see the infamous exhibitionist here at a hospital. Midnight blinked when she heard the somewhat familiar voice of Mirko behind her. The two of them had never really worked together, but both of them were famous heroes, so that they were on rather friendly terms, despite not really knowing each other. They knew each other in passing pretty much, as popular heroes, but you could not call them friends by any stretch of the imagination. There was simply mutual respect, one would say, and it allowed them to get along well enough. Though Midnight wasn't a fan of Mirko's loud mouth. I'm just visiting, just got off work today, some of us are teachers now. Midnight spoke with a tired smile. Naruto was getting better, but cleaning the toxins from his blood that were keeping him sick wasn't an easy process. He had been in the hospital for 3 days already, and he had missed his first day of school at UA already. He wasn't sick anymore, they were just flushing his body to make sure that he didn't get sick again, and boosting his immune system so that it would become a little stronger. I'm doing some community service, going to visit the sick kids and tell them hero stories, Mirko said as she flexed her arm and gripped her muscle. Being a hero wasn't all punching and that good stuff, sometimes it was just patrolling, doing paperwork, and making public appearances to keep up a good image. With how many times she had been defeated by Kurama recently, she really needed to keep up a good image, to sort of correct the damage being done to her reputation. They stopped together at the check-in. Midnight, coming to see Uzumaki Naruto. Midnight stayed with a smile. Mirko, here about seeing visit the kids' ward. Mirko gestured to herself with a bigger smile, puffing out her chest to make a bigger impression than Midnight. Midnight just sent her a look that said really, but otherwise let it go. 3rd floor, in the playroom, both of you. 3rd floor playroom. You're so awesome, Nichan. Ah, this is nothing, Naruto said loudly as he held up two children on his biceps, allowing them to hang off of him as he walked on the ceiling. They were laughing and smiling, using his arms like a jungle gym. Naruto was grinning, feeling a lot better after having his system flushed for a few days. He had decided that it was time for him to help make the hospital stay for the sick children a little better, so he asked if it was allowed for him to play with the kids, and the doctors agreed with it. Naruto's tongue shot out of his mouth and wrapped around a kid's waist, before he lifted a third kid up off the ground and allowed him to fly off the ground. This is so gross, Oni-san. Despite his words, the little boy couldn't seem happier as he was able to move around the room outside of his wheelchair. His broken legs not keeping him down as he was allowed to walk again, his feet above the ground and mimicking walking for him. Rari-chan, let's race. With that, a young girl turned to look at him, and showed that she had her mouth covered in bandaging type, her muffled voice barely making a sound. Naruto used his tongue to allow the boy to race against the girl, the two of them running around the room together. A young boy with a frog-like face and shape, and black hair that covered his right eye, with a wide mouth and larger hands, was slowly crawling on the ceiling like Naruto was, but he wasn't steady as he crawled. You're doing good, Samidare-chan. Once you start sticking to surfaces, you've just got to get used to the feeling. Naruto's words were a little slurred since his tongue was stretched out of his mouth, but other than that, he was speaking normally. The boy crawling had a quirk very similar to his own quirk. Frog. Naruto's toad quirk makes his body, overall, stronger, more durable, his poison more deadly than most frog quirks out there. The frog quirk gave better leg strength, more jumping power, and a higher resistance to chemicals. Though, as a child, Samidare wouldn't have any of the advantages of his quirk as of yet, since he was still a child, and his quirk immature because of it. You're better at this than my sister, Samidare stated lowly as he watched Naruto walking around the ceiling using only his feet, instead of both his hands and feet like his sister needed to use. She always used her hands and feet to crawl on stuff, otherwise she couldn't stick to anything properly, or she would lose her grip and slip off. It's all about where your center of gravity is. Frogs have more leg strength, but overall, my body is stronger, and it allows me to concentrate more power to my core. Naruto flexed his belly, his shirt having fallen a little to show his abs. The trade-off for reduced leg strength was having more overall strength, meaning he could focus his strength to his belly, and balance himself to stick to stuff without needing his hands to do it. Hey, settle down a little, getting harder to keep a hold on you. Naruto let the kid slip down his arms, and he used his hands to lower them to the ground. He put his hands in the pockets of his medical pajamas. So, what brings you here, kiddo? Naruto asked as Samidare crawled up next to him. Got the flu, having my body flushed. Samidare mentioned with a mutter as he crawled next to Naruto, his face mostly blank, but that was natural. His features were more set than Naruto's own features, which allowed for an even wider display of emotions thank a frog quirk owner. I don't like shots, Samidare stated to Naruto, since he was at the hospital until he flu was completely cured. His older sister was supposed to be picking him up tomorrow, that or his mother, depending on who was free at the time. Samidare lost his grip on the ceiling, and Naruto reached out with his hand, and grabbed him before he fell to the floor on his head. Bring him back to the ceiling. Samidare stuck to it again, and kept his focus on the ceiling. Yeah, they suck big time. I don't like them either. I worry about anyone who likes shots. Still, we need them to keep from getting really sick, and spreading it to others. Think of it like this: every time you get a shot, you're being a real hero to the people that you aren't getting sick in the future. Naruto gently sat down the child his tongue was holding back in his wheelchair when the nurse came to get the child, and the nurse pushed the child out of the room. Bye-bye, Oni-san. You better heal up nice and strong, kiddo. Don't want to see you back here. Naruto called out to the kid with a wide smile. Samidare looked at Naruto with admiration in his eyes. Can you become my real brother? You said something? Naruto asked the little crawler with a grin. I have a sister your age, she goes to UA now, she's going to be a hero. Samidare didn't repeat his words, instead, he mentioned his older sister. She's socially awkward, but really cute, she's got a frog quirk too. Samidare explained to Naruto, who just laughed for a moment. He didn't understand why Samidare was bringing up his sister, but sometimes, the right answer was just to laugh a little. Hey Naruto, Having fun there? Sup kids, Mirko here to hang out with you guys. Naruto slipped off the ceiling and landed on the top of his head out of the pure shock of seeing Mirko and Midnight together coming through the front door. His lost complete, even subconscious, concentration over his surface sticking, and spewed the air he was breathing out when his skull bashed the floor. Samidare hopped from the ceiling properly, and landed on the floor on all fours. Naruto just sat up and rubbed the top of his head. His eyes met with Mirko's eyes. He seems familiar to me for some reason. He's got really pretty blue eyes, though really familiar to me for some reason, kind of like Kurama's eyes if Kurama had a toad quirk, and not a poison quirk though. Mirko rubbed her chin in thought, locking eyes with Naruto. The two had the same build, but this boy clearly had a toad quirk, while Kurama's abilities were seemingly completely focused towards creating and using multiple poisons. Oh well, it would seem they just had very similar eyes then, but damn was the resemblance not striking for her. The second she saw his eyes, the first person she had thought of was Kurama. She would have attacked him if she didn't realize their quirks were super different, and this boy seemed to have a more serious personality than the pervy goofball that was her favorite villain Kurama. Sup Bun New York hero Mirko and Midnight. Naruto almost slipped and called Mirko Bun Bun, but he was able to quickly play it off by biting his tongue while he was talking. Naruto waved to the two heroes, and Midnight smiled and waved at Naruto. She was still in costume, so she needed to keep things more professional sadly, otherwise she would have gushed over how cute her son was when looking after the children. He was just loved by children it would seem, because even the boy, Samidare, was patting the top of Naruto's head to try and make his head feel better, even though Naruto was perfectly fine. Years of bonding with children and raising them did wonders for Naruto. Come on Naruto, let's go, Mirko is going to take over for you now. Midnight gestured to the bunny hero, who sent out a peace sign. Naruto just got up and waved bye to the children. Hope all of you get better. Naruto started to walk to the door, while Mirko walked deeper into the room and passed by him. Mirko blinked when even her nose was hit by a familiar scent, though the stench of hospital was covering it up a little too. She turned her head to look at Naruto as he passed by her. Mirko tilted her head in confusion. Seriously, other than his quirk not matching up, this guy is like a perfect doppelganger for the bastard. Kurama has an unregistered poison quirk, and this guy has a toad quirk. Mirko couldn't shake the feeling that this boy was off somehow. Kurama, other than changing the color of his poison to change his skin color, didn't show any other real signs. Having a toad quirk, using thick poison to stick to walls didn't count, while this boy didn't seem to hold even a shred of the poison abilities that Kurama had either. So the two of them just couldn't be the same person, despite having the same eyes, scent, and build. Thank God Bun Bun is a dumb bunny, and I make it a point to make everyone think Kurama's quirk is poison. Naruto sighed in relief to himself. It would not do for him to get caught because of something like accidentally running into the hero who knew Kurama the best so far. Hey kid, what is your opinion on super tall ladies with big tits? Midnight gave Mirko a raised eyebrow when she asked Naruto that question, and Naruto turned, blinking as well in confusion. Naruto realized what she was asking moments later, and made sure that it didn't show on his face. Not really my type, I like modest girls. He is for sure not Kurama. Kurama is kind of pervy, and always making jokes about being attracted to certain types of women. Mirko erased all suspicions that this boy was Kurama in an instant with that question. She had a wider smile on her face now that her doubts were gone, and she turned to the children remaining in the room. Naruto didn't let out a sigh, but he felt relieved further. Thank God Mirko wasn't smart. He was really cool and he had a toad quirk. Did you know people with toad quirks have stronger poisons than us, and they can crawl on walls without using their hands? Onii-san said that he had weaker legs than the frog quirk, but he seemed really strong anyway. This is the most he's talked about somebody. Samidare's mother, Bura Ajui, thought to herself as she set down their dinner plates in front of her children. It was a rare chance that she and her husband were both at home, since they worked away from the house, so she decided to make a decent dinner for the family with her own efforts. She had opened a can of worms when she asked Samidare how his stay at the hospital was. A toad quirk, the family father Ganma Ajui questioned under his mouth, expressionless face not showing either positive or negative. He was extremely frog-like, though a species of frog that had warts like common toads did, and was brown-skinned with black hair, even though he had a frog head. His children all took more after his wife than they did him, which was good, because he inherited far more of the mutation aspect of the frog quirk and less of the actual superpowers. He had the looks of a frog, but very little power behind his looks, so he couldn't help his daughter in her quest to become a hero. Burr gave his elbow a small tap. Didn't you know a man with a toad quirk years ago? Burr asked him to remind him he knew some good people with that quirk. You're talking about Minato, right? I met him in college. He was a genius at everything he did. He graduated from college at the age of 15, settled down with that strange Uzumaki woman. Was she was the one who started the orphanage, or the one who started the island for animals with quirks? Ganma asked his wife, since he wasn't friends with either Minato or the Uzumaki woman. He just could not know about Minato, since the man had been one of the world's finest geniuses, having graduated college at an insane age. His toad quirk made him smarter? Tsuyu, the oldest child, another froggy in the family, asked as she sat down between her siblings. Samidare and the 6-year-old Satsuki. Real toads are actually very intelligent, though not all people with a toad quirk inherit this little factor. I don't know if Minato inherited his toad quirk's intelligence boast, or was just a genius, but the boy could spend one night studying anything, and he would be an expert in the morning. The boy had so much more potential than all of his peers, but he wasted it. He's just another tale of a man who was led down the wrong path. Ganma explained to his daughter, since he didn't want her to get the idea that he knew everything about Minato, or was even friends with the guy. He only knew what everyone else who went to school with the guy knew, maybe a little more because he made the effort to try and hear some extra rumors. Oni-sen didn't seem super smart, but he was really fun, and he helped me learn to crawl on the ceiling better. Samidare said to Satsuki, not paying a lot of attention to his parents, while his younger sister listened to him. Minato had a beautiful song though. Of all the men with toad quirks, I do remember him having an unnaturally beautiful voice. Burrow was remembering Minato, with her husband nodding slightly. Right, he always did have that habit of doing that when he was studying really hard. That song really was a nice thing to fall asleep to in the dorms. Ganma remembered that too. Tsuyu just put a finger to her lower lip. You mean like how I say ribbit sometimes, and what does a song have to do with a toad quirk? Tsuyu asked with a slightly confused tone. At least her family could tell she was confused, since it didn't show on her face. He helped a kid in a wheelchair play tag. Well, unlike us girls, men with frog and toad quirks are able to produce real toad/frog sounds, since in nature, the females don't really make noise. People with our type of quirk, the men, can combine their human vocal cords with their quirk and produce a blend between the beauty of the mating call, with the range of a human. Baru explained for her daughter, and she turned to her husband. Show her, dear. With all this pollen in the air, my throat has been awfully scratchy, not to mention my voice isn't suited for it. Ganma politely refused for decent reasons. The song mixed the human vocal cords with the frog/toad ones, meaning both the human and frog. For him, vocal cords needed to be beautiful for singing and able to sync up. His own song was put to shame by Minato's own song. Just got off work to need to be relaxed. So you just nodded in acceptance. With midnight. Homework. I hated it as a student, and I hate it as a teacher. Still, hard to believe there are students this stupid too. Nemuri said mostly to herself, finished grading all of the homework she had to deal with. She was sitting at the kitchen table, in just a sweater and her panties, glasses on her face with her hair set back, legs curled up into her chest. I swear, a good cup of tea, and I'll be out for the night, Nemuri stopped what she was doing when she heard something coming from the hallway. It was beautiful. It was inhuman and human. Instantly, her mind started to go a little blank as she felt herself starting to drift off into a pleasurable daze. It was hypnotizing in how it drew her stressed mind in, and dropped her guard. Her eyes struggled to stay open as she hugged her knees and started to relax herself into the sound. Words didn't register in her mind, she didn't know what the lyrics were, and she couldn't tell you a single word she was wearing. There were words to the song, and the words were in Japanese, so naturally, by all means, she should be able to understand the song being sung. Still though, it was like there was such an inhuman quality about the song, that her mind just couldn't understand the lyrics. I could listen to this forever. Naruto should just sit down and relax like this now, since he has school tomorrow. Nemuri thought to herself as she saw Naruto walking down the hallway, towards the fridge, with a medical mask still on his face. Seeing as he was still sick, just well enough to leave the hospital. Her ears sort of tracked the source of the sound move from the hallway to the front of the fridge, where Naruto was standing right now. Strange. It didn't matter though, this song was putting her to sleep. The longer it went on, the less she found herself caring about anything. She just wanted to slowly bask in the sounds filling her ears, slowly, as all other sounds in the world were drowned out. Namuri snapped away when the song ended. Naruto was drinking some cold tea from the fridge, having started to drink at the exact same moment that the voice stopped singing. Namuri started to look around to try and figure out what the hell just happened to her, quickly rubbing her tired eyes when she realized that she had nearly been put to sleep. Did you hear that, Naruto? Yeah. Naruto finished drinking, before he looked towards Namuri with a dull face. Hear what? Naruto asked her, since he didn't hear anything unusual. Closing the fridge, Naruto started to walk back to his room. The sound started to play again, and Namuri's eyes widened when she realized where the sound was coming from. Ajri family? Several teachers had to put an end to that though, since while the song he made came from his toad quirk, with his human vocal cords, it affected humans too. Minato didn't even know he was doing it, but he was causing people to become attached to him, because his song would directly affect people's brains. Ganma tapped the side of his head where his brain was. Buru looked at him with some confusion, since she didn't know this part of the story, not that they ever spent time talking about Minato before now. They just both knew who he was, so they could both share facts about him. Really now? Yes, since most men born with animal mutation quirks look like the animals they represent and less human, our vocal cords are more similar to the animal mutation. Minato looked extremely human, so his toad quirk let him use toad calls, and it mixed with his human cords to be able to affect other humans. His singing caused people's brains to start to produce hormones, so Minato was told by the professors to stop singing. His music could cause people to become emotionally attached to him, and even fall in love with him. Ganma explained that part of the story to his surprised wife. Even years later, she was still a slight victim to the attachment effect, since she still longed to hear his voice again singing. Minato had become forbidden from singing in public places, since his song affected different people differently as well. Not everyone reacted exactly the same, but one of the basics was the fact that almost everyone who heard his voice was put into an almost hypnotic state. Oniai-san is even better than Wani-chan at ceiling walking. While the adults, and Tsuyu, were having this conversation, the younger children were still talking about the boy that Samidare met at the hospital. Cool. He's going to be attending UA's General Studies course, Class C. He said. I asked him why he didn't want to be a hero, and he just mentioned he had something way cooler for his future. Back with Naruto. Naruto sang to himself as he thought about how he was going to make going to UA turn into something he could take advantage of. If he wanted to start his own orphanage to make up for the one that he lost, then he needed to graduate UA and build himself up as a reliable person. Still, he couldn't neglect to take his villain duty seriously either. He needed to find a way to balance his student life with his villain life, and for that he would need to contact Pop's stepson more to set up some alibis ahead of time. Hey Naruto? Naruto stopped singing when he saw Namuri outside his room, looking through a crack between the doorframe and the door. It's getting pretty late, and so maybe you should go to sleep. If you want to grow taller, you'll need your sleep, Namuri said with a forced smile on her face. As much as she wanted to listen to his singing some more, she knew that he would be up all night if she didn't tell this to him. Also, your singing is making me pretty tired, so I'm going to sleep too. Good night. Naruto blinked and scratched the side of his head. Whoops, he was so used to singing to the orphans to help them sleep, that he must have been doing it without thinking about it. He didn't know why, but whenever he sang, people would enter a daze or fall asleep. The children would just fall asleep, while the caretakers who overheard him would enter a daze, and become really uncomfortable when he stopped singing. Night. Naruto wasn't going to say goodnight, but he just waved to her, and started to get ready for bed. Yui didn't know it, but they were going to take his villain career to the next level. This school is kind of boring. It's just like a normal school when you aren't taking the special classes. Naruto walked through the halls of UA just like any of the other students. Naruto had to grin to himself though when once more the fact that he was a villain, walking the halls of the world's best hero academy, and nobody was chasing him in the slightest. Naruto had already went through 4 of his classes, and he would be going to the lunchroom with the rest of the students at the school. Well, that was the normal thing to do. Naruto gained a glint in his eye though, because he had different plans for what he was going to do during lunch. Naruto took a turn and glanced around. Seeing that nobody was paying attention, he slipped into the woman's bathroom. This was required for his plan to work, before he slipped into a stall. He opened his backpack and glanced at his mask inside. In the lunchroom, 10 minutes later. So pretty cool that we have All Might as a teacher, right? I mean, he doesn't seem like the type that would have just lost to Kurama, right? Ochako mentioned as she sat with a few of the other girls in their class. She wanted to get their opinion on the newest S-rank villain, the one who took down the entire top 10 heroes with his stealthy poison. She didn't know what to think about a villain being alive that could take out anyone, at any time, and come from anywhere. There was a silence for a moment as a few of her classmates put some thought into what she was mentioning. I think he's really cool. Other than the villain thing, he just seems like he's trying to have fun with the heroes. He did save that guy's life, and got hit by a truck and a car doing it, right? Mina mentioned with a giant grin. She thought that guy was really cool. Other than the villain fact, she was pretty sure he was a good guy underneath all of that poison. Momo just went silent and nodded her head, since she had been interrupted, and she looked at Tsuyu, Jairu, and then the invisible Toru. There wasn't much to look at in the case of the last girl, but it was just the girls eating together. Nobody seemed like they were going to interrupt her again. Right. Ochako pointed to Mina with a grin, since she agreed with that thought, though Kurama was still a scary villain. The entire lunchroom went silent actually. Tsuyu froze and looked next to her, her eyes widening in shock, but the rest of the people sitting at the table didn't notice what she had noticed. He seems a little pervy though, the way he always teases the heroines and takes clothes. Toru mentioned with a shiver. The thought of being stripped naked and left to dry was a humiliating thought. The fact that she was invisible completely slipped her mind though, and her words seemed to echo even more considering how strangely silent the entire lunchroom was being. Yeah, he's a little pervy, but have you seen how those ladies dress? Pretty sure a lot of heroines are secretly exhibitionists, you know? I can agree with that. A lit Jaira looked next to her at the person who said that, and she froze like everyone else when she saw Kurama sitting down between her and Tsuyu. When she froze, that alerted the rest of the table to the fact that something was wrong. Kuku. Naruto waved a hand. With a tight sexy body like yours, I can't wait to see what hero uniform I can take from you, sweetheart. Naruto openly flirted with the girl, making finger guns and everything. All of the girls at the table jumped up in unison. Kurama! The world's hardest to catch villain has arrived. Any of you guys want to take a shot at me? Naruto asked them all as he bowed deeply, jumping to stand on the table. Naruto had a grin on under his mask. He would be showing off all of his teeth were it not for the mask. Somebody call All Might. In the teacher's lounge. He got all of us again. How the hell did Kurama even break into the school? All Might said as he laid face down on the ground, having collapsed next to his poisoned lunch. All of the other teachers had collapsed as well around him. None of them had heard any of the school's alarms going off that would have alerted them to the fact the school had been broken into, which was freaky considering the fact that they had all been poisoned by the infamous Kurama. Can any of you move yet? Nope. Can't. Grararf growl. The rest of the teachers that had collapsed in the room were giving likewise statements of their inability to so much as move. More humiliating was the fact that Kurama had already stolen part of their uniforms and had stolen All Might's other hair horn, now owning a matching pair of them. In the lunchroom. Any challengers, come on now, I know some of you want a chance at fame. Naruto called out as student after student started to pass out from his poison. Every student that had taken even a single bite of their lunch, school provided, had taken his poison to the tongue, and every student that hadn't, had been secretly touched by him as he made his way to the last table to sit down. In moments, all but one student had passed out cold from what he had done, and Naruto was surrounded by a lunchroom filled with knocked out students. Naruto glanced down at Tsuyu with a raised eyebrow. She looked like Samidare, so she had a frog quirk too, which meant she had a powerful ability to resist his poison. All of her friends had passed out, but instead of attack him, She was crouched on the ground and ready to just defend herself and those that might be attacked. She was starting to sweat nervously though. Naruto just put his hands in his pockets and jumped off the table. Tsuyu flinched. He really is Kurama, these underhanded tactics poisoning the school's lunch supply, and taking out the teachers before they could fight back, Tsuyu thought as her mind raced, unable to think of anything that could protect all of the students. Naruto sighed. I don't hit girls, and I've never really been in a real fight, so could you just leave? I'm not going to actually hurt anyone, just play a small prank while everyone is knocked out. Naruto requested as he looked down at her. He had no plans on actually doing anything evil, other than the poison thing. Tsuyu didn't budge. His statement actually filled her with confidence in her chances to win, since his poison didn't seem to have much of an effect on her. She tightened up her tongue in her mouth, and with a quick strike, faster than a normal person could react, she shot her tongue at him. He caught it. Good thing I can use my tongue like this too, or I wouldn't have known she was going to do it. Lethal dose it is then. Naruto thought as a small amount of white liquid dripped out of his sweat glands on his hand, and touched her tongue. Naruto waited until a lethal dose was on her tongue, before he let go of it, and it shot back into her mouth. With how resistant she was to his poison, going fully lethal was what was required to knock her out. Tsuyu had seen what had come out of his hand, but by the time she had registered what she had seen, she had already passed out as well. -2 hours later. Well, this is he didn't steal any of their clothes at least. Midnight used All Might as a crutch, barely able to move her legs as she walked into the lunchroom with all of the other teachers who were able to move. She was greeted with the weird scene of all of the students in the lunchroom on the ground, unable to move. The other teachers quickly went to search the rest of the school. All of the students were cross-dressing. Kurama, the odd villain, had stripped all of the boys and girls naked, and switched their clothes with a different student. All of the boys were wearing the girls' uniforms, and all of the girls were wearing the boys' uniforms. Well, at least I'm not the only one. Naruto, you're okay. Midnight rushed out of All Might's grasp and hugged onto Naruto when she saw he was up and walking on his own. I was worried, with you just getting out of the hospital, I thought you would he got you too. Midnight looked at Naruto, and she saw that he was wearing a girl's uniform that was a little too big for him. Naruto didn't fight the hug, he just acted like he was having trouble standing up, and didn't have the energy to resist her. I've got a high resistance to poison because of my quirk, so I woke up quickly. He got me in the boys' bathroom, and when I woke up I was in the girls' bathroom wearing this. Naruto mentioned as he looked down at the uniform he was wearing. Naruto had taken the uniform from the black-haired girl who had been sitting at the same table as Tsuyu, the one with the larger figure. Took a bit of effort to work up the courage to leave the bathroom. Glad to see that I'm not alone though. Makes it a bit easier to laugh this off. Naruto gave a small chuckle of awkwardness that actually convinced both of the heroes in front of him. Did he hurt? When Midnight and All Might went to check on the rest of the students, Naruto grinned to himself and leaned forward. His prank had gone off perfectly. Nothing. So what Kurama did isn't going to be on the news? Naruto asked Namuri as he looked at her watching television. It had been a day since his prank, or rather the next day, and he was surprised that what he had done hadn't been giant news at this point. He had unleashed a massive prank on the entirety of the UA school and all of the teacher heroes present. While he was slightly worried about putting a target on his back, with how big that target was already, nothing was going to make it that much bigger. Namuri looked surprised to see him talking to her of his own free will, or rather, him starting the conversation. Well, the other teachers at UA thought it would be best to keep this event under wraps. Since all of the cameras inside of the school had been destroyed, Namuri spoke, and Naruto nodded his head. He had destroyed any camera that could have caught sight of him, and used his camo ability from his toad quirk to make sure the cameras didn't see Kurama anyway. Erasing the evidence from the memory was as easy as a quick Google search on his phone, and all the evidence that could link Naruto and Kurama together was gone. And we still don't know how he got into the school. We want to avoid a panic. Namuri explained to him when he sat down. She stood up to start making breakfast, since for once, he was actually sitting down at the table with her. You don't want UA's reputation to be ruined either, right? Naruto questioned her with a knowing smirk. She shook her head. Honestly, if this was some 2-bit villain breaking into UA and doing this, Then maybe, but considering it was Kurama who took down the entire top 10, including All Might himself, Kurama being capable of taking down Yue is something the public won't be surprised or shocked over. Nemuri reluctantly admitted to the fact. Kurama was perhaps the only known villain that could do this, and nobody would be shocked over it anymore. After his big stunt of taking down the top 10, he had become a very controversial topic for a lot of people. A villain that could escape any hero, who had taken down the best of the best, was a villain that was extremely dangerous and worrying. At the same time, the villain was Kurama, who had shown off many times the fact he meant no true harm to anyone, had never been violent once, and had risked his own life to save a person. Many people were convinced that Kurama would never actually hurt anyone, he just wanted to have fun, but there were others that believed a villain being this good at taking down heroes couldn't be allowed to stay. He's really become popular, Naruto muttered with a frown as he looked at the TV screen. Behold, the newest, off-the-line, Kurama figure, and we are premiering them here first. Figures and toys of me, that's so. Naruto didn't know what to think when he saw the news reporter in the toy store, going down the line of hero and villain toys, and showing off the newest and more expensive looking too there. So what side of the argument are you on? Naruto asked Nemuri, and she looked conflicted. I think Kurama is good for society as a whole. Nemuri reluctantly was truthful with this one. Every time Kurama humiliates a hero, their public image falls a little, and to regain their image, the heroes he defeats were forced to work even harder to make up for the loss. While more criminals are trying to imitate Kurama, crime rates overall are actually dropping. Nemuri was reluctant to admit this for that very reason. Kurama's actions were making heroes better heroes by forcing them to try and save face, by becoming even more active in the community. It was an unintended side effect of his crimes, but the fact remains that if Kurama wasn't such a friendly villain, then the heroes he went after would be dead, and the public would be terrified, inciting panic. Huh? Naruto didn't understand. I, and several other heroes, believe that Kurama is wasting his potential. He seems like a good guy at heart, I would even say lonely. Nemuri explained her thoughts on it a little. Nobody really knew what they wanted done with Kurama anymore. The public, the majority of the public, adored the villain for his fun ways, and the fact that he never really did anything really evil. He was just for them, a way for them to spice up their lives with good, clean entertainment. Naruto scowled. Lonely? He doesn't seem lonely to me. Naruto spoke under his breath, with his scowl growing unpleasant. Nemuri gave him a concerned look when she saw his mood was changing, but she didn't directly comment on him. She didn't argue with him either. What does he seem like to you then, since you asked? What do you think about Kurama? Nemuri wanted to hear Naruto talk about his opinion, since he never really gave her his thoughts on this stuff. She put breakfast in front of the two of them, and sat down across from him. I don't know. You don't know? Nemuri was a little curious about how Naruto didn't seem to know what he thought about Kurama. Well, I guess you're conflicted like a lot of people then, with good reason. The guy did dress you in women's clothes that were too big for you. Nemuri sympathized with him on that at least. Momo, a girl in the hero course, was a tall girl with large breasts and wide hips, and it was her clothes that Naruto had been forced to wear. She had height on him, and her figure made her clothes big on him. Being smaller than a girl, for any guy, could be a little humiliating. At least, that was what she thought about why Naruto might not feel strongly about Kurama. Naruto gave her a small glare for that. I'm just 15, I have a lot of room to grow, and my father was tall. Naruto told her quickly, and she raised her hands up in surrender. Okay, so she touched a button there. Gotcha, so, changing the topic? How was your first day at UA, not counting what happened? Did you like the school or make any friends? Nemuri only got to teach the history and art classes, so she didn't get to see a lot of Naruto during the school hours. She had seen he wasn't great with art, and his grasp on history was a little odd. He seemed to have trouble learning the same way that other students learned, so she was going to have to try and work with him on that personally. Thankfully, as his mother, she was in the perfect position to offer him help after school, and try and find out why he seemed to have problems. She had been allowed to look at his middle school records, and she saw that his grades had always been low. Which was odd, because he actually seemed very cunning, and that he had a good head on his shoulders. I met a guy that was sitting alone, he's got a villain-like quirk, and people were avoiding him. I want to try and get closer to him. He looks like he could use a friend. Naruto mentioned since he had seen a guy sitting alone, and asked some other students about him. The guy tried and failed to get into the hero course because of his quirk, and though Naruto didn't want to be a hero, he completely understood what the guy was going through. Having your dreams taken away was rough. Namuri smiled wide. Oh, friendships between men can just be the best of things. Men who prefer the company of women are fine, but having a male friend you can be yourself with is just good for you. I say you should go for it, try and make friends with him. Namuri encouraged his plans with an open mind. Naruto just played with the food in front of him, before silently eating, not sure what else he could say. Namuri just kept smiling though. Do you hate villains? Naruto asked Namuri after a few moments' thought. I can't say I hate them. There are a good number of villains out there who just need help. There are some really bad people I don't like, and it's my job to take all of them down. But when I can, I do try and help the ones I feel can turn their life around. Heroes aren't here to hurt people, we're here to help them. Namuri believed that she put her thoughts into proper words there, or at least explained them well enough for him to understand. You know, this is the nicest conversation we've had. I hope we can have more like it. Namuri added that on, and Naruto's face stayed flat and emotionless at that. Naruto sighed. I don't hate you. Naruto was forced to admit to her. He didn't like her, and he did not see her as his mother, but he was going to have to admit that he didn't hate her as a person. By the way she was talking, she seemed like a genuinely good person. After spending time with her, he could tell that she really did not mean to force the adoption on him the way she did. She made a mistake, and she really did feel sorry about how she took something dear away from him. She was not a bad person though, and the more time he spent with her, the more he was forced to admit it. Namuri just smiled. Thank you, and for what it's worth, I'm going to be the best mother I can be. You're already dear to me. Namuri spoke honestly as well. She didn't have him in her life long, but living with him, and trying to bond with him, and when he got really sick she practically felt her heart try and rip itself out of her chest to be with him. Having a child had awakened her inner maternal instincts, even if it wasn't through birth. You're my child now, Naruto. Even though you don't hate me, you're angry with me though. I love you, and I hope you'll come to love me one day too. Namuri watched as Naruto started to more quickly finish his breakfast, and how he kept his face flat without showing anything on it. For her at least, the silence was more comfortable than it usually was. Naruto seemed in thought though. Later that day. Come on, Bun, I'm honestly flattered. Naruto allowed himself to relax as he dodged Mirko rather easily enough, since as she got used to the way he dodged, he was also getting used to her fighting style. Phones were out recording them, and Mirko was attacking with a more passion than normally as she tried to land a clean hit on him. She was grinning from ear to ear, having yet another chance to take this villain out was a blessing for her. Heard what you did, bet you got an eyeful. Mirko taunted him. Right, he had seen every female and male student of UA without their clothes on when he was switching them around. He had used the school's copier to leave notes in all of the students' clothes that he didn't do anything perverted to their bodies. The fact remains that he had seen all of the students in the nude though, and thinking on that would usually be enough to get a blush on his cheeks. Do I hear a hint of jealousy in your voice, Bun? Should I strip you naked too? Naruto asked her, and he ducked underneath a 100% power kick that she threw, one that unleashed a pretty strong shockwave. That one would have really hurt if it had actually hit him. Thankfully, he knew the way his body moved so well at this point, he could predict what she would do with his brain tied behind his back to make it fair. Don't worry, Bun, your sexy thighs are the only ones I want trying to choke me. Those girls don't have nothing on you. Naruto ran his hand up her leg while she was pulling it back. You can put your hands all over them once I've beaten you. Mirko jumped up and tried to get him with a spin kick. Mirko's phone rang, and she stopped her kick. Where the hell do you hero women even keep those phones? Naruto asked when he saw her pull out her phone, and he tried to see where she pulled it from. She raised her hand up to her lips, and shushed him before he could say much else. Did you just shush me? Naruto asked with some shock. She shushed him again. Mirko here, bank robbery a few minutes away, they hijacked a bus, I'm on it. Mirko shouted over the phone at the end. She ended the phone call, before she turned towards Naruto. Sorry Kurama, gotta take care of this. Chasing you will give more fame, but some real criminals are doing something. Mirko put her hands together in apology. She hated to end their chase before one of them won, but when lives were in danger, she had to go and take care of it. She abandoned Naruto and jumped in the general direction of where the other crime was taking place. Catching him was something that would bring fame to whatever hero managed it, but when lives were at stake, those lives would always take priority. Naruto put his hands in his pockets, with a frown on under his mask. Well now. Naruto jumped high into the air and followed after Mirko, unable to just let this one slide just like that. Jumping side by side with her, she glanced to her side and shrugged her shoulders. You know, people can't just stop chasing me, I've got a reputation to uphold. Inside the getaway bus. Now everyone stay down, keep her hands on her heads, and this won't turn bloody. Call it a stereotype, but the crime was being committed by 3 men, all of them hiding their features with black masks and black sweaters as well. They had dangerous-looking, and large, guns that took 2 hands to properly hold. Guns capable of easily wiping out all of the people on the bus in a few seconds flat. So, we still using code names also? Yes, we are still using code names. I'm Hawk, you're Eagle, and he is Owl. Hawk stated as he gestured to Eagle and Owl in turn, since they seemed to have forgotten the important parts of the heist. This would be the last time he allied himself with quirkless newbies like this. He was quirkless too, but at least he was a pro when it came to escaping with the money. What hero is following us? Ingenium, Empty Lady and Kamui Woods were recently in this area. You two remembered to warn the police that we would shoot the passengers on Hero's sighting, right? Were you supposed to? Idiots, never working with you two again. Hawk spoke as he palmed his forehead, and he glanced out of the side of his eye, and saw a passenger about to reach down. Shooting out the window above their head, there were screams of panic throughout the bus, and the passenger's hands went up to his head. Eagle, do you have sights on any heroes? Hawk asked as he looked back towards the front of the bus, and he saw that Eagle was downed. Owl was still driving the bus, but Eagle down on the ground, twitching with foam coming from his mouth, clawing at his own throat, his eyes darting around like crazy. He gargled on the foam in his mouth, before his eyes started to roll up into his head, and he passed out in a horrifyingly silent way. Holy shit, Eagle is voting. I knew he liked drugs, but I didn't realize he did them before the job. Owl glanced back and saw his buddy collapsed on the ground. Hawk wasn't as stupid. Okay. Show yourself, hero, show yourself, or I start shooting, starting with the kids, then the women, finally the men. Hawk shouted out to the entire bus, and he shot around into the roof of the bus to prove a point. He felt a finger touch the back of his neck. Snapping around, he saw that he was face to face with Kurama, another villain, and he relaxed when he realized it wasn't a hero. A fellow villain, and a pro at that, was always a welcome change to the idiots he was working with. Holy shit, it's Kurama, the unstoppable hero beating machine. We're going to totally get away with things now. Thank you, Total Crime Newbie, for the ever so kind introduction. Yes, it is I, the enemy of the people, nasty villain of far renown, an expert of all things poison, the master thief Kurama. Naruto performed a bow towards everyone in the bus. Naruto walked to the front of the bus, before he tapped his finger against the top of Owl's hand. Owl collapsed, and Naruto grabbed the steering wheel. Play music, Higurashi no Nakukoro and IOSD Senku. You're here to stop us. If pull this bus over, I'm going to open fire. Hawk shouted out when he realized he was not in the presence of an ally. Naruto sat down in driver's seat as Owl started to twitch on the ground, and took off the real driver's hat from where he was tied up. He grabbed the walkie-talkie. Hello everyone, my name is Kurama, and I'll be your tour guide on this poisonous trip. The first stage in my special poison is paralysis. Naruto started to explain the steps. Hawk froze when he realized he couldn't move his arms, and the gun fell out of his hands. Realizing that he had been poisoned when Kurama had touched him, he could do nothing but fall to the ground. Stage 2 of this poison is your sense of reality starting to fade, as you hallucinate seeing things that aren't there. The world started to vanish, and it was replaced by horrifying shapes and colors, the flames of hell itself burning around him. Hawk was forced to watch as his arms were melted off by the fires, and grew back, and were melted off again. His hair was grabbed, and his head jerked so that he was looking into Kurama's yellow eyes, which were narrowed dangerously. Stage 3 is when you realize that you just fucked up, threatening a child's life in front of me, and beg for mercy before you start to feel. Please make it stop. Stage 4 you feel utter agony, as every nerve in your body sends pain signals straight to your brain, making you feel like your entire body is on fire, and no water in the world is cold enough to put you out. Just like Kurama spoke, Hawk's eyes started to roll back into his head as he gave out a silent scream of agony. His entire body feeling just like it was explained, like a fire had overtaken every limb in his insides. Naruto stood up. He had already pulled the bus to a stop when Hawk had collapsed. There was silence as Hawk twitched and suffered for a few moments, which would feel like eternity, for the poisoned man, before finally passing out and ending his own suffering. Naruto leaned down to the man, even though he was passed out, and whispered into his ear. Nobody would ever hear this, but it needed to be said. You almost killed children, and turned the children of these people into orphans. Consider yourself lucky. Next time I catch you, you won't wake up ever. With that said, Naruto stood up and waved to everyone on the bus, who were cheering him. He's a hero. Now, I'm no hero, I'm just your friendly neighborhood Penny Parker. Naruto even made a cute pose to go with the statement, before he laughed at his own joke. You see, this is the part when a giant robot crashes next to the bus, and I make my escape in a robot. This would be that part, but this isn't Marvel, so instead, I'm just going to have to make my wonderful villain escape. Naruto exclaimed loudly to everyone who could hear him. Naruto jumped out of the bus just as Mirko came crashing through the window. You bastard, how dare you paralysis me? It is one thing to steal my clothes and my heart, but stealing my job, you've crossed the line, little man. I'm the hero, you're the villain, and I'm going to oh shit. Mirko realized not only was Naruto not in the bus anymore, but people were recording her with their phones, and a news reporter was getting on the bus. They had just recorded her admitting to something that was very bad for her. Mirko looked down on the floor, and saw a piece of paper. For leaving me behind earlier, I leave you with this mess to clean up. Any humiliation you face will be your fault, so don't go saying anything I wouldn't say. Love, your sexy little villain Kurama. Son of a bitch, he played me like a fiddle. I fucking love that man. Mirko growled to herself when she realized this was the ass she was in love with. Mirko, do you have any comments about your relationship with Kurama? Damn, did that villain know how to play people? With Naruto later. Sup Pop, you busy today? Naruto asked as he jumped in through Pop's steps home window, and landed on her bed without a worry in the world. She yelped from her study desk, and stopped doing her homework. Naruto pulled his mask down, and the same with his hoodie, so that his face was revealed. Whoops, you're out of costume. You got any plans for today, Kazuho? Naruto asked her with her real name, and she turned to face him, holding her chest. He nearly gave her a heart attack. The fuck is wrong with you? Kazuho stopped herself. The fuck is wrong with you, Naruto? Yes, I'm super busy. I've got a boatload of homework. Are we talking your definition of boatload, or mine because you have plenty of ass to go around? Sorry, still in Kurama mode. Naruto mentioned when she threw a pillow at him. It took him a minute to stop making pervy jokes, since part of his Kurama persona was making perverse jokes. She threw another pillow at him, and he let it hit him in the face. Okay, I get it anyway. Wanna hold a concert tonight? Naruto asked her with a grin on his face. Beating Mirko was putting him in a good mood. Can't, I've got homework, and a lot of it. As much as I want to do that, I have to make my parents happy, or they will ground me. Kazuho stated to him, and Naruto's smile vanished from his face. Right, she had parents that she had to please. Naruto's smile returned to his face as he shrugged and walked backwards towards the window, putting his hoodie and mask back on. If he couldn't do something with Kazuho because of her homework, then he would just go and find a hero he could have some more fun with or something. He needed to take his mind off of family stuff anyway. See ya later then, Pop. Text me later, and when you do, be sure to do something for me. Naruto sat on the edge of the window and started to lean backwards. Send nudes. Perv. Naruto backflipped out of the window when a pillow went flying after him, a grin on his face under his mask. He had to wonder what hero he was going to mess with this time, since not a lot of heroes in this area were anything to write home about. Naruto jumped and landed on a house rooftop, before he started to hop from roof to roof with little difficulty. Oh, he had the perfect target. All Might headquarters. I hope that young Midoriya doesn't have to go through this much of the hassle I do when he becomes great. All Might stated as he went towards the mini fridge in his office, hidden under his desk. He opened it up and grabbed a fresh new jug of milk. He sat back up in his desk and was about to pour himself a glass of milk. Before that, though, All Might pulled out a small poison detector that he just bought this morning and placed it into the milk jug. Since Kurama's poison couldn't be detected through taste alone in its lower doses, and since the human body had trouble creating antibodies to poisons, he needed to be extra sure this milk wasn't poisoned. Kurama's poison was only ever used against heroes in non-lethal doses, meaning that Kurama could always change the dosage to match any resistance that they could form to it. All Might smiled widely as the poison detector went off, and shined a green light, showing there was no poison in the milk. A nice glass of cold milk, just a wonderful way to relax. All Might poured himself a cup of milk, and swallowed large mouthfuls of it. Oh, you didn't drink that milk, did you? Kurama! All Might super quickly entered his usual large, muscular form in the blink of an eye, when Kurama made himself known, sitting on the ceiling with a grin visible under his mask. Naruto just waved down at All Might, and before the man could throw so much as a punch, he collapsed down to his knees as his body became skeletal and super skinny, his muscles vanishing as quickly as they appeared. Naruto chuckled to himself as he landed on All Might's desk, and picked up the glass of milk, finishing off the milk himself, drinking it through his mask. Milk, a great way to relax after beating the #1 hero for the third time. Naruto put the cup down upside down on All Might's desk. But the milk didn't have any poison in it. All Might didn't fret about Kurama doing anything really evil. Other than being a prankster, he seemed just like a kid that wanted attention. All Might wasn't worried about his true form being seen either, since this was the third time that Kurama had seen this form, and his secret was still not known to the public. Kurama never told anyone, so it was safe to assume he had no plans. I made sure to buy a poison detector so that this doesn't happen anymore. Naruto wiped his finger around the edge of the glass. Didn't poison the milk though, I poisoned the rim, so when your lips touched it, you got poisoned. You've got a lot of nice stuff here, what do you think I should make a trophy? Naruto got off of his desk and started to walk around the room with his hands behind his back, looking at the hero suits that were hung up on the wall. Naruto looked at a framed photo that was sitting there as well. So this is what young Might looks like. This woman is pretty, and she's got a nice smile. My master, a wonderful hero just like you could be if you applied yourself. All Might spoke from his position on the floor. Nope, still couldn't move, despite trying to. Not interested in hero stuff. Hero beats the villain and saves the day, you hear a ton of stories about that. What about a villain who doesn't lose, and makes fun of people? Now that is a fun story to see in the news. Naruto stated as he grabbed one of the costumes from the wall, and held it up to All Might. You mind if I take this? Will me saying yes change anything? I mean, I'm taking it either way. Naruto admitted as he started to fold it up and put it into his backpack. He just thought he would be formal and ask, since All Might was a great hero. So, how is the school taking my little prank? Naruto asked as he packed up what he was taking, and went over to put the milk jug up for All Might. He didn't want it to get warm after all, room temp milk was gross. All Might was sure this was the weirdest conversation he would ever have with a villain. Wondering how you entered the school, and were able to destroy the cameras. Oh, that was easy. You've got a traitor in Class 1A, your traitor was more than happy to sneak me into the school and tell me where your cameras were. Naruto lied with extreme ease, and he did it in a way that left no doubt that he was telling the truth. All Might froze up when he heard that there was a traitor among the students, and the way he froze up showed Naruto that his lie had been believed. Naruto turned to hide the grin on his masked face. Now, whenever Kurama pulled a prank on the school would investigate one of the hero's students. That would take the pressure off of him, considering he already created an alibi for himself anyway. Why are you telling me about a traitor? All Might asked with a frown on his face. Naruto turned to look All Might in the eyes. Because isn't it really fun that I know who the traitor is, and you don't? Now you know about a traitor, and I get to laugh that you have no clue who it is. My friend is a really good spy, So even if you investigate, you won't find a thing funny, huh? Naruto asked as he tapped All Might's forehead, and he increased the poison dosage a little, since he noticed All Might regained some use of his fingers. All Might cursed under his breath when his ability to move was stripped from him again. You're so talented, what would your parents say if they learned this is how you use your talents? Mood. Killed. What is with everyone and parents today? Naruto stopped having fun and walked over towards the window, opening it up and jumping out without any hesitation. He was getting a little sick of being reminded of parentage today. Naruto felt the wind rush over him as he free fell. He might as well make his way home, since it wasn't like there was much else he could do today. Today was less fun than he wanted his first day off of school to be. Naruto slowed his fall by touching the side of the building, before he gently landed on the concrete sidewalk. People around were shocked when they saw him land, but he jumped onto the nearest moving car and started to surf on the traffic without much of a thought on where he was going to go next. Villain Kurama. Oh, sup Ingenium, going for a run? Naruto asked when he saw Ingenium running next to the car he was riding on top of. He hadn't committed a crime in this area to get a hero called on him. Well, nobody would have known about the All Might thing just yet. Sorry, I can't play around with you. There is motorcycle gang terrorizing the elderly home. Have a pleasant day though. With that, Ingenium started to run on his way in front of the car, without a second's delay. Naruto frowned when he realized that this was the second, third counting All Might. That kind of blew him off today. All Might didn't have the choice, but the way he was talked to during that suggested that All Might didn't consider him to be a serious villain. Naruto laid down on top of the car when he realized that everyone was kind of used to him. At least the heroes were mostly used to him at this point, the ones that regularly dealt with him. Bullshit, just because I don't threaten innocent lives doesn't make me any less of a villain than those other guys. Naruto thought to himself with frustration. Do you mind signing this for me? A teenage boy shouted as he stuck his head out of the car and showed a notebook to him. Naruto grabbed it and signed it, before handing it back to the boy. Naruto got up and jumped off of the car, before landing on top of a truck that was changing into a different direction. Naruto perked up when he heard the loud flapping of wings, and saw Ryukyu. Naruto jumped after her, going from car to car quickly, until he caught up with her and jumped higher. Landing on top of her neck, she blinked and turned her long neck back to face him. Kurama? Sorry, but I don't have time to chase you, just go and return whatever you stole, okay? Not going to chase your favorite villain? I could really use another trophy from you, Miss Number 9. Naruto mocked her a little, and she just shook her head and neck, trying to knock him off of her. Naruto ended up just letting go of her, and landing on the ground in a park. I'll chase you when I have free time, so behave yourself. God, it's like nobody has any time today. I might as well go mess with Endeavor or something, he's a hoot to mess with. Naruto would have to travel a bit to go to where Endeavor was located, but at least he was sure he would get Endeavor to chase him easily enough. Naruto sighed to himself. Naruto blinked when he noticed something out of the corner of his eye. Looking towards the alley, Naruto walked. He could have sworn he felt a shiver go down his spine, and see somebody hiding in the alley. PSSSD over here. Naruto saw a petite hand gesturing for him behind one of the turns in the alley, and Naruto knew it would be a bad idea for him to go and follow where the hand was pointing to. It was starting to get dark, and a lot of widows started to come out at this time. Now, it was an extremely bad idea to follow the hand, but Naruto also was extremely curious about who the hand belonged to. Somebody had seen him, and decided to hide away from him in an alley instead of talk to him. Not to mention the heroes today had been really boring. This seemed kind of fun. You aren't going to stab me if I go over there, are you? Naruto called out into the darkness. You would look cute cut up. Cool, honesty points for that. Naruto grinned and started to walk deeper into the alley. At least the person was being honest about the fact that they were going to try and stab him. So I'm Kurama, I know everything about you. Creepy and rude. Naruto turned the corner, and saw nobody was in that part of the alley. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto walked further into the alley. Super fan. Naruto stated, and oddly enough, he wasn't feeling anyone around. Naruto blinked when he felt pain though. He felt pain slash through his back. Of course I know everything about you, you're like the coolest. I like you, I wanna be you. A box cutter tore through the back of Naruto's shoulder, and he jerked away from the girl that had dropped out of nowhere. Naruto grabbed onto his shoulder and jumped away from her. The fuck? Dropping in out of nowhere, and taking people by surprise is my thing, and how the hell didn't I sense her? It's like she wasn't even there? Naruto thought as he kept his eyes on the girl. She didn't chase him though, she looked at his blood that was dripping off of her box cutter, and letting it drip on her face. Other than her freaky grin and super sharp canines, she was pretty cute, wearing a high school girl's uniform, and her hair done up in messy buns. Her face and eyes gave off a very vampire vibe with the way she was looking at his blood so lovingly. I was totes right, you look cooler when you're bleeding. You never bleed when you fight heroes, so I wasn't sure how you would look bloody. I followed you, and 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 followed you. The girl kept on repeating it as she started to lick the box cutter that had his blood on it, letting the blood smear on her lips. But you never bled. Naruto narrowed his eyes. You know, it's really my thing to be a sneaky little villain, don't steal my thing. But Naruto-chan, I've been following since your first year is middle school. Don't you remember me? I honestly can't say I've ever seen you before. Naruto was now alarmed when his real name was used. Only 3 other people were supposed to know who he was. The guy who paid Jiren and gave him clothes, Jiren, and Pop's step knew who he was for real. Nobody else was supposed to have that information. You've been stalking me for 3 years? Naruto asked when he stood up straighter, never taking his eyes off her once. She was blocking the only exit. Wait, he was being stupid. Of course I have, I really, really, really like you. I wish I knew where you lived now you're not in the orphanage anymore, and I really miss watching you sleep. You've got a really cute sleeping face. She spoke with her grin splitting her face almost literally as she gave him crazy eyes to match them. Naruto used a free hand to reach back, and he traced the size of the slash wound. Fuck, it was a good 7 inches in length easy, and it was bleeding pretty heavily. Thanks to his toad quirk, the bleeding would stop before it got dangerous. His healing slightly faster thanks to the nature of his quirk, but the fact remains that he was bleeding a lot, and a wound like this would still need to be treated. Who are you, and how did you sneak up on me? Naruto asked her with narrowed eyes. The answer would decide his reaction to her. Oh, when I hold my breath, and clear my mind, it's like I don't even exist. I'm Himiko Toga, call me Haim-chan. Himiko introduced herself as she got into a fighting position, and started to eye his body. She looked for the next part of his body that she wanted to cut. I've been trying to hold back for years, it's been so hard not being my real self. I know almost everything about you, like how, thanks to your quirk, you've sadly stopped bleeding already. Himiko couldn't hold herself back anymore. She chose this alley when she saw the news report Naruto was in this area, and this place was close to where All Might's building was. She knew that he had to be getting fed up. It was in his nature to be an attention hog. He would naturally go crazy, and she would admit, her plan required a lot of luck to work. So, you don't know where I live now, oh thank God. Naruto sighed in relief, before he jumped when she got in close and her box cutter bit into his chest. He dodged most of it, but across his right pec, he got a light cut that stung like hell. She swung a second time quickly, far too quickly for his liking. Hey now, I don't hit girls also OW. Naruto jumped out of her reach and rubbed his bleeding chest, stopping the bleeding. She nearly licked his blood again. You put poison on my box cutter, you let me cut you that time, you're so nice to let me do that. I was hoping you would like the box cutter again, well, that plan is out. Can't believe I'm about to do this today, just isn't my day. You might be sneaky, but I have one advantage over you that will end this. Naruto grinned under his mask, since she was blocking the only normal exit. Normal exit. Toad quirk. I can jump! Naruto shouted as he jumped high enough to scale the entire building, and landed on top of it. He looked at her down below, before he jumped over several buildings and started to make his escape. The rapid movements allowing him to cross a larger distance than she would be able to cross. I was right though, that was exciting. Also I hope this is my only stalker. I don't think my heart can take this stress. Naruto held his chest, since he was pretty sure he was going to be having nightmares tonight. That girl was freaky. You didn't think you would escape me that easy, did you? Shit! How, and why, but most importantly, stop stabbing me. Naruto felt the box cutter go across his back again. He might have a toad quirk, but he didn't feel like being dissected today or any day. Himiko had followed him to the top of the rooftops, how he didn't know, and had thrown a box cutter into his back, before she pulled it out herself. But I want you to bleed more. This bitch was crazy. With Namuri later. Finally got everything done today. Naruto likes to stay out a long time, so I can use this as a chance to start dinner and run the bath. Namuri stretched out her back. She had been stuck to her chair all day, grading homework, making test plans, and doing the paperwork for her hero activities. Not to mention she was going over the hours for the sidekicks that she had employed at her agency, so that they could be properly paid for their efforts. She had a very busy day, hadn't really had much of a chance to do anything, but thankfully she would have some more free time for the near future. She heard the sound of the door opening up. I'm home. Welcome home, Naruto. I was just about to make dinner. Any ideas on that? Namuri was stretching her legs out, since they had fallen asleep on her. She looked back at Naruto. Naruto had his left eye closed, with a long cut going across it, 5 cuts across his chest, no doubt a bunch on his back. His left arm had a box cutter snapped off in it, the blade stuck in his arm, and his right arm was hanging limply at his side. His legs were undamaged, with almost all of the damage being on his upper body. None of the wounds were bleeding anymore, other than where the box cutter was still shoved into his arm. I want ramen, I've had a really bad day. No shit. Namuri was on Naruto in a second as she grabbed him by the shoulders and turned him around to look at his back, which had easily a dozen wounds on it. His body looked like he had been put through a lawnmower, twice. None of the wounds were shallow either, and she didn't understand how he hadn't bled to death already. Is your eye okay? What happened to you? Who did this? Namuri asked him as she put her hands on his face and examined his eye. She opened it up forcefully, and she saw with some relief his eye itself was okay, he wouldn't lose it. She looked down at his arm, and she grabbed the broken box cutter and pulled it out of his arm. Naruto held back the shout at that one. Naruto, who did this to you? I got jumped by a gang. There were like 16 of them with box cutters. Naruto was not going to admit that one girl was able to do this to him. The fact she was able to hide from him and his quirk was freaky, and the fact that she was so quick and agile was worse because of her stealth abilities. He had never even known which direction she would come from, and whenever he took his eyes off her for even a second, it was like she vanished. She was his quirk's natural enemy, a person who his spatial awareness did not sense when they tried to sneak up on him. We should go report this to the police, and get you to a hospital. The people who did to you need to be brought to justice. We can't let them get away with this. I won't let them get away with it. You should have called me the moment it happened, Naruto. What if you had bled out? Namuri started to shake him at the shoulders. She gripped his shoulders hard enough that her nails were digging into his skin. She was really worried and angry. I'll be fine, the cuts aren't too bad, they'll heal soon enough, and because of my toad quirk, I won't even scar from it. Naruto wouldn't even get scars from his wounds. Only his pride would remain wounded, but now that he knew he had a stalker, and there was something that could get around his spatial awareness, he had something he could work on. Naruto, we have to go to the police, and you need to be checked out. This isn't me asking you as Namuri, I'm telling you as Midnight. What, those boys? Girl, it was a girl, just one. I learned I have a stalker, and she surprised me. Anyway, I already took care of her. Naruto had to admit the truth of the gender and number, because he couldn't really afford to give the police a lie that would be so hard to believe. Anyway, I already know who it was, Himiko Toga. I could really use a bowl of ramen and a bath right now. With Himiko. He doesn't hit girls, that makes me special. Himiko whispered to herself as she recovered from the poison she suffered from. Naruto hadn't held back when he punched her in the face. Her nose was bleeding heavily, covering the lower half of her face in her own blood. Her left eye was swollen shut, and she had a nasty bruise on her cheek. He had punched her in the face a few times, along with other parts of her body. He never punched any of those dumb heroes, but he punched her. She was special, because she was the only person that he attacked. Himiko licked her own blood from her lips, and giggled to herself. Out of everyone he took down, she was the only one he used violence against, and he did it oh so brutally too. She really liked him. Back with Naruto. Yes, a young girl, blonde hair, sharp canines, petite figure, high school age. Himiko Toga is her name. His wounds are stab and slash wounds, inflicted by a box cutter. She admitted to stalking him for years. Yes, no, he doesn't know where she is now, thank you. Namiri got off the phone moments later, since Naruto didn't want to personally visit the police. She let him go and run a bath, and since he had school tomorrow, she would make him visit the school nurse and have him get his cuts healed up by her. You didn't have to do this, Naruto mumbled to her. She put her phone down. Yes, I did. You know how you take care of the orphanage children? Well, guess what, that is what I'm supposed to do for you. You're hurt, now strip down to your underwear while I go run a bath. I'm going to apply some basic first aid to make sure that you don't get an infection. Namiri gave him his orders as she started to leave the room. Once she was done treating him, he was going to take a bath and eat a good dinner before going to bed early so that he could get a good night's rest in. When Naruto stripped down and sat down, Namiri came back into the room with a first aid kit. I won the fight, but the fact she hurt me so much, the fact she stalked me for years, I've got to learn how to feel when she is around. Naruto thought as Namiri started to clean the blood off his body to see what wounds were in the most need of cleaning. She winced every time he winced, and she looked to see a large wound that went above his heart. Seriously, you should have gone straight to the hospital and called me. You're really hurt, and your skin is cold, you've lost a lot of blood no doubt. Namiri felt his pulse, and how weak it was. The fact he was even up right now could only be because of his quirk helping him out so much. If his quirk wasn't a mutation type, then he would have passed out and died by this point. Naruto wished she would stop talking, because the more she talked, the worse he felt about this. I get it. Do you? Because I feel like you're going to ignore me, and the next time you get hurt, you won't ask anyone for help. You're young, and you need to learn that you don't have to handle everything alone. Also, sorry this is going to hurt a lot. Namiri started as she started to dab ointment into the larger wounds, a green paste that would prevent the wounds from reopening in the bath. I'm going to have to put this stuff back on before you go to bed. It really stinks. Naruto had the smell of it overrun his nose, and he almost couldn't handle it. Good, sorry, I don't want to be harsh. I'm just really mad that this had to happen to you at all. Namiri growled under her breath. She knew that because of her personal attachments to this case, she wouldn't be allowed to partake in it at all. It pissed her off that her new son had gotten so badly wounded, and she wasn't able to do anything but report it to the police and apply a minor heal to it. Turn around, Namiri told him, and he did as she told him. The wounds on his back looked far worse than any of the others. He wasn't going to be sleeping on his back for a while, and bending over for anything would be a horrible experience for him. Namiri started to apply the ointment to his back wounds, and she saw one that went from his lower hip into his underwear. She stabbed my ass. I promise I will not laugh at this. Namiri maintained a professional tone, which Naruto gave her credit for. She applied the ointment to the injured area carefully, before she was done, and rubbed the top of his head. You take a nice, long, relaxing soak and I'll get some ramen cooked up. If you don't mind the instant stuff at least. Namiri didn't have the stuff to make home-cooked ramen, but she had enough of the instant to make a decent meal of it. When Naruto left to take a bath, Namiri growled and bared her teeth. She knew she could not come face to face with this girl, or she would do something that she wasn't allowed to do as a hero. She would beat the girl within an inch of her life, and make her suffer for what she did. That was against her personal code, and excessive violence was against hero rules anyway, without good reason. Revenge did not constitute a good enough reason for excessive force though. Namiri. Yeah? Namiri asked when she saw him stick his head out of the bathroom. Thank you? And just like that, his head went back into the door, and she just smiled to herself when she got a thanks. She didn't get those a lot, so she would value the fact that he appreciated what she was doing for him. That thank you sounded like it hurt him to say it, which meant he really did mean it. He did not want to tell her that, and did it anyway. He told her he didn't hate her. He also thanked her. Even though there was a long way to go before he saw her as his family, she felt like she had taken a good step in the right direction with this. You're welcome. Next day. This hurts more than actually getting stabbed does. Naruto shouted out as he was given a big wet kiss by Recovery Girl, and his wounds were healing like they had never been there. But still, being given a healing kiss by an old granny, that didn't hurt his body. No, that hurt something worse, that hurt him right in his already damaged pride. Oh, shut up, you big baby, you're lucky you don't need surgery as well. Recovery Girl added, since his wounds could have easily required surgery, as well as a healing were he somebody else. So, you got yourself a stalker with a love for cutting. Most boys have to stop their girlfriends from cutting themselves. Not you though. Recovery Girl made a small joke at his expense to lighten the mood. She offered him gummy bears moments later when his wounds were fully healed, and Naruto moved his arms around and twisted his back. He was a little sore, but otherwise, his wounds felt completely better. Haven't I suffered and I don't need a gummy bear? Naruto pointed out when she practically pushed it towards his face. Naruto sighed and in the end took one of them, swallowing it with one bite. Is he going to be okay? Midnight, full costume, asked with some concern over him, looking at his now healed body. While his wounds were healed, she didn't know about his mental state, since he wouldn't tell her if she asked. I mean, he learned he was stalked for. I'm fine, just weirded out is all. You learn you have a stalker. It isn't exactly something that you just accept. It was super creepy. Naruto shivered when he remembered the day before and meeting his stalker. He hoped that he never had the displeasure of meeting that girl again. Hopefully, she found somebody new and moved on since he beat her face up. Not a lot of people wanted to stay with somebody that punched their face a lot like he did. Stay with? He meant to say follow like an obsession, since that was what she was going to him, following him like a creep. You know, I could try and heal these scars on your face. Recovery Girl pointed out as she looked at his face, which the whisker marks. How did you get those? Midnight asked when she looked at his face as well, since Naruto had never explained where the whisker marks came from. They can't be part of his quirk, since his quirk is toad. It made no sense for him to have them, unless they were scars from something. There had to be a really good story behind those scars, and facial scars could affect a person's mental health depending on how bad they were. Both of the heroes stared at Naruto, in wait of an answer. I mean, they're natural, I can't explain it either. As far as I know, I've had these for as long as I can remember. If this is all, I think I'll go to class now. Naruto got up and made his way out of the nurse's office. Any news on how Kurama got into the school? Midnight asked Recovery Girl, who waited until she was absolutely sure that Naruto wasn't listening on the other side of the door. You know something? Midnight asked when there was a long pause. It would seem that in the hero class, Class 1A, we have a traitor. Keep an eye on the hero students, a close eye on them. Yesterday, Kurama took down All Might and mocked him with this information. Recovery Girl added, which did support the information of a traitor a little. The fact that based on how Kurama was, he didn't seem like he would lie about this, bragging rights, made the claim had some validity to it. Midnight seemed shocked, before her eyes narrowed. I'll be sure to keep an eye out. Are we able to rule anyone out at least? Midnight wanted to know who she didn't need to worry about. All Might says Midoriya and Todoroki are clean for different reasons. Since we believe there is a traitor among us, we're going to be secretly moving the date of their training at the USJ. It's too far from the school. A villain could attack, and our staff would have trouble getting there in time. Recovery Girl added with a deep frown, since this meant that they had to be very careful about all the information that they told to the students from now on. It also meant that they were going to be potentially increasing the power of a future villain, so the quicker they could weed out the villain, the better. They would also need to be on high alert for Kurama. They didn't know if he would strike again. Thanks for watching. I hope you had as much fun as I did putting this epic what if together. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a single twist in the story. Drop your thoughts, theories, or even wild ideas in the comments. I read every single one. And hey, if you're craving more awesome Naruto content, go check out the other videos on the channel. I've got plenty of heat waiting for you. Until next time, stay sharp, stay awesome, and remember, even a shadow clone needs love. Peace out.